Chapter 628. Dong Wushang wasn't unguarded. He had always been on guard. However, he hadn't been on guard when things had come to a head. He had been caught completely off guard. That was because his elder brother's people had shown good intentions. So, he had let down his guard. Moreover, he had deliberately let himself let down his guard. No one knew how much Dong Wushang valued this brotherly affection. He had grown up together with his elder brother. He had always respected and worshipped him. He had always taken care of him in every possible way. He had spoiled him in every possible way. But he had turned against him. So, one could well imagine how sad and disappointed he was. Now, his elder brother had finally shown signs of reconciliation. He had shown good intentions. Dong Wushang would rather believe that this was true. He had longed to return to the environment of brotherly love. So, he hadn't hesitated to gamble with his own safety. Unfortunately, he had lost the gamble. His body was injured in many places. Someone else wouldn't have been able to stand up if they had been in his place. But he was still standing. He was standing on one leg. His entire body was bleeding profusely. But he was still standing straight. He was still mighty and majestic. Only the sadness and disappointment in his eyes had added a bit of desolate elegance to his proud figure. Everyone didn't dare to meet his gaze. So, they turned their heads away one after another. Dong Wushang smiled. It was a miserable smile. His heart had completely died at this point. He suddenly recalled that Chu Yang had repeatedly told him before he had left. "Wushang, you must be careful! Wushang, you must be careful!" Big Brother had expected this. So, he had been reminding him. But he hadn't said it clearly. That's because he couldn't say it clearly. After all, Dong Wulei was his elder brother. His biological elder brother. It would have been hard to avoid sowing dissension if Big Brother had said it at that time. But his repeated reminders were tantamount to saying, "Be careful of your elder brother!" Dong Wushang had also sensed it. But he had still foolishly chosen to believe it when things had come to a head. "Second Master, we also didn't want to do this." Dulu Feng coughed twice. He then said somewhat guiltily, "But our Dong clan is swaying in the wind and rain at this time. We can't withstand another big storm." "I understand." Dong Wushang nodded slowly. The look in his eyes changed from confusion and despair to heartache and pain. He was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. But if one were to look closely at his eyes, one would be shocked to discover that his gaze was gradually deepening, gradually condensing, and gradually transforming into a kind of cruelty. He understood. He really understood. The Dong clan only needed one successor. Just like the throne of the royal family, there would always be only one seat. If Dong Wushang was a little mediocre, it wouldn't be a big deal. But to be so outstanding, it was unnecessary. Moreover, it was a potential crisis that could lead to the division of the family. Dong Wushang's body swayed, and his eyes suddenly turned into the color of the black saber. He looked up at the sky and murmured, "Everyone in the world pursues love, but who would have thought that this world is heartless? Perhaps it's because this world is filled with too much ruthlessness that there are so many legends about love." Suddenly, a burst of intense saber light shot out from his body. Brilliant and dazzling. Enlightenment! The second senior elder looked at each other in amazement. He clearly understood what had happened to Dong Wushang at this moment with his cultivation and insight. He hadn't expected that Dong Wushang's innate talent would be so unimaginable. His mind had been stimulated in such a desperate situation, but he had still managed to gain enlightenment at such a time. How can a saber strike without causing any injury be considered high? Who can endure the endless world of mortals? Drifting in the Jianghu, I'll become a heartless saber from now on. Dong Wushang looked up to the sky and laughed heartily. He laughed out loud because of the endless grief and indignation in his heart. Suddenly, he let out a long and loud shout, and slowly recited these lines of a poem. Perhaps this wasn't a poem, but a saber art. A saber art that belonged exclusively to Dong Wushang. Dong Wushang had suddenly become a Buddha when his body and mind had been beaten black and blue. He had comprehended the second level of the Saber Emperor realm. His entire body was emitting intense saber energy. The look in his eyes was becoming increasingly cruel, increasingly calm, and increasingly heartless. Dong Wushang had comprehended the saber without injury when he was a first-grade Saber Emperor. But his second-grade Saber Emperor had comprehended the saber without injury. Saber strikes without causing any injury from now on. Saber strikes without emotion. His body issued pi-pi-pa-pa sounds. The broken bones in his chest suddenly recovered miraculously. He stretched out his left hand, and suddenly turned his body. Then, his right shoulder shook, and a kacha sound resounded. Dong Wushang slowly raised his right hand, and slightly extended it. His shoulder recovered. His right foot fiercely stomped on the ground, and issued an earth-shaking loud sound. Dust and smoke flew in all directions like an explosion of explosives. His right leg recovered. His comprehensive comprehension of the second-grade Saber Emperor realm had miraculously healed all the injuries on his body to perfection at this moment. His injuries hadn't fully recovered, and his present strength wasn't at its peak. But his movements were no longer hindered. No one would have been able to stop him if he had retreated at this time, including Du Lu Feng. But he didn't want to retreat. He wanted to kill. The cloth that had bound his hair suddenly exploded with a bang sound. His black hair fluttered down, and draped over his shoulders. Dong Wushang's body was tall and sturdy. He stood tall and straight. Everyone in front of him had all kinds of feelings at this moment. The Dong Wushang in front of them wasn't Dong Wushang anymore. He was a devil god from the ancient abyss. He was looking at them with disdain. Dong Wushang's eyes were cold and emotionless as he looked at these people in front of him. He had once placed all his hopes and trust in them. Then, he slowly raised his right hand. His movement was as slow as an ox climbing a hill. But it left behind a clear afterimage. Everyone clearly saw that his right hand was raised to the air. It was raised to the level of his shoulder. It was raised to the point where it was raised to the point where it was leaning backwards. Then, his right hand grabbed the hilt of the saber. It was the hilt of the black saber that had remained silent on his shoulder all this time. The afterimage he had left behind in front of him was still clearly visible when his right hand had grabbed the hilt of the saber. It had displayed a clear hierarchy, and a clear sequence. The moment his right hand gripped the hilt of his blade, the 50 people in front of him felt their minds shake violently. It was as if the boundless sunny weather had suddenly turned dark. And a world-shaking thunderbolt flashed across the sky at the same time that it had turned dark. And it had smashed the darkness that had filled the entire sky. "You're heartless." "So I'm heartless!" Dong Wushang bellowed. Then, he suddenly unsheathed his black saber. An earth-shattering black light shot out. The afterimage he had left behind when he had unsheathed his saber was still in front of his chest. This saber had first smashed the afterimage in front of his body. Then, it had also smashed the air in front of his body. Then, it had streaked across the distance of 80 feet. And the saber's edge had been aimed at Du Lu Feng's forehead. His body had also arrived in front of Du Lu Feng when he had hacked down with his saber. However, Dong Wushang was still standing 80 feet away. His entire body was drenched in blood. His stature was tall and straight. He was like a deep pool of water and a mountain peak. One man could hold the pass against 10,000 men. At this moment, it was as if there were two Dong Wushang that were exactly the same in this world. One was still, and the other was moving. The still one was standing, and the moving one was killing people. Du Lu Feng bellowed. He unleashed the highest strength of an 8th-grade Emperor-level expert in a flash. He didn't advance. Instead, he retreated 300 feet like a whirlwind. Dong Wushang's saber missed its target. And a deep mark appeared on the ground with a bang. It was only 1 foot wide. However, it was 100 feet deep. And it was a full 25 feet long. The might of this saber strike was so terrifying. "Let's attack together! Kill him!" Du Lu Feng shouted in a sharp voice. A thin bloodstain had appeared on his forehead, and blood was gushing out of it uncontrollably. Dong Wushang hadn't hacked down with his saber. However, the saber energy of the Saber Emperor had injured him. His entire body would have been split into two halves if it had been a little bit heavier. Du Lu Feng used his hand to touch his wound. However, his pure energy couldn't stop the bleeding. 45 people of the Dong clan crazily pounced on Du Lu Feng after Du Lu Feng had bellowed. Everyone had unsheathed their sabers and swords, and they were seething with murderous aura. Everyone knew that they would be dead if Dong Wushang didn't die today. After all, this matter had to be carried out in secret, and the clan's punishment would be enough to make everyone lose their lives if it was exposed. Dong Wushang swept his saber across. He then laughed wildly and said, "Heartless saber technique!" Suddenly, the saber light became dazzling. That pitch-black saber in his hand strangely emitted a multicolored saber light. The saber light swept across like lightning. Blood-curdling screams resounded repeatedly. The bodies of 7 people had been split into 2 halves. The smell of blood on the battlefield suddenly filled the air, and the atmosphere had become even more tragic. Dong Wushang laughed wildly. He then took large strides forward to attack. His body seemed like a moving lofty mountain range. He was so majestic that he seemed unexcelled in the world. A light swoosh sound was heard. Then, a shadow appeared above his head. Du Lu Feng had leapt down from the sky. The sword in his hand was emitting a sharp sword light. He then thrust it towards Dong Wushang's head. Dong Wushang fiercely lifted his black saber, and it issued a whoosh sound as he brandished it. Then, a pitch-black saber curtain appeared from the ground to the sky. It had condensed into substance. Clang! A loud sound was heard. Du Lu Feng's body soared into the sky like a bird. But he then fiercely somersaulted a few times in the air. Then, he staggered and fell to the ground. Only the hilt of his sword remained. The webbing between his thumb and index finger had been ruptured, and was dripping with blood. However, Dong Wushang's body also tilted. He staggered back a dozen or so steps. He left a deep footprint with each step he took. And he stepped on the ground, and raised the dust in the sky. This kind of momentum didn't seem like a fight between 2 people. Instead, it seemed like 2 elephants had fiercely collided with each other at the highest speed. Moreover, the location was in one of the most dust-prone deserts. Dong Wushang had relied on the strength of a second-grade saber emperor, and the weight of his black saber to meet Du Lu Feng's attack head-on. So, it seemed that the outcome of the fight had been evenly decided. In fact, Du Lu Feng had fallen into a disadvantageous position. However, Dong Wushang's injuries were more serious in reality. He was a saber emperor who was far superior to an ordinary emperor-level expert. However, his strength was inferior in the face of the all-out attack of an 8th-grade emperor-level expert. Dong Wushang would have died on the spot if the black saber hadn't neutralized most of the enemy's power in fact, and posed a serious threat to the enemy. Attack immediately! His injuries haven't healed yet. Now, his injuries have worsened. He doesn't have much fighting strength left. Du Lu Feng gnashed his teeth, and shouted. First update. I'm heaty. A circle of blisters has formed on my tongue. It hurts to smoke a cigarette. I'm posting this chapter. I'm going out to get some medicine. Then, I'm coming back to write. Today, I'm proud of the world. I'm asking everyone for clicks, recommendation votes, monthly votes, and evaluation votes. This second promotion is of great significance. I ask my brothers and sisters to lend me a helping hand. Let's show off our strength in all aspects. We'll show our proud strength in this promotion. Mobile monthly votes have also fallen very badly. My brothers and sisters who read on mobile phones, please put in some effort, okay? Thank you. I'm asking for monthly votes from now on. And I'm also asking for mobile readers, hee hee. Chapter 629. Du Lu Feng felt even worse. Not only had the weapon that had accompanied him for his entire life been destroyed, but even his internal organs had also been turned over. The merciless saber energy was wreaking havoc in his meridians. He simply couldn't free his hands to attack again. He just stood there stiffly, and tried his best to dissolve the saber energy in his meridians. He didn't dare to move. Du Lu Feng's heart shivered. I hadn't thought that the might of a saber emperor would be this strong. I had thought that he would only be a second-grade saber emperor even if he had made a breakthrough. And I was an 8th-grade emperor-level expert. So, it wouldn't be a problem to crush him to death. But I hadn't expected that this move would be so sharp that both sides would suffer. He suddenly recalled a legend he had heard before: an emperor-level expert isn't frightening. What's frightening is a single emperor-level expert, saber emperor and sword emperor. The hegemony of a saber emperor and the sharpness of a sword emperor could kill enemies above their level as if they were cutting grass. Sure enough, the murderous intention in his heart became even more intense as he thought of this. How can I survive if I let Dong Wushang grow up? He has just made a breakthrough to second-grade saber emperor. Moreover, he is seriously injured. But he still possesses such power. What will happen if he recovers to his peak state? What if he becomes a third-grade saber emperor? What will happen? I must make Dong Wushang fall here today at all costs. Du Lu Feng secretly swore in his heart. Humans are so strange. He had come to intercept and kill Dong Wushang earlier for the sake of the Wei clan. Moreover, he couldn't bear to kill Dong Wushang. How rare is it for a youngster to be so successful? But when he discovered that Dong Wushang actually had the ability to kill him, he didn't have the slightest bit of that lofty demeanor of an expert. This appreciation of talent and his reluctance to do so had all turned into boundless killing intent. This murderous intention had nothing to do with the future of the Dong clan. It was because his own life had been threatened. Perhaps Du Lu Feng was loyal to the Dong clan. But the dark side of a person's heart couldn't be matched by any kind of loyalty. Dong Wushang spouted blood from his nose and mouth again. His 5 viscera had been severely shaken during the sneak attack. And his injuries had worsened after he had clashed with Du Lu Feng at this moment. However, Dong Wushang didn't stop. He didn't hesitate. The only thought in his mind at this moment was to kill these people. They are members of the Dong clan. But I just want to kill him. Because I've already broken your heart. I respected you in every way and left you some leeway. Why do you still want to kill me? I've always tolerated you, and I've worshipped you since I was a child. Why do you still want to kill me? Do you know that I once swore in my heart that if you were in danger, I would risk my life to help you? Do you know that if it was a matter of life and death and only one of us could survive, I would definitely choose you to live? And I will die myself. Big brother, do you know? Do you know how badly you've hurt me this time? If you want me to leave the family, you only need to say the word. As long as you say it, I will leave obediently. I won't fight with you. But why didn't you even say a single word before taking action? Dong Wushang Xian roared. His eyes had turned red. He had almost lost his mind. Facing the 50 experts who were rushing towards him, he let out a sorrowful laugh and charged forward with his saber in hand. Her long black hair fluttered in the air. Kill! Dong Wushang roared. He leaped up abruptly and slashed down with his saber. A king-level expert was cut into 2 halves by his saber, and blood splashed out. The black saber was brandished horizontally, and a king-level expert's sword shattered with a clang sound. Then, his hand shattered, his arm shattered, his shoulder shattered, and his head shattered. He was smashed into pieces by the black saber's back. Dong Wushang laughed wildly as he rushed into the crowd. He looked like a crazed tiger that had rushed into a flock of sheep. He only attacked without defending in the face of 50 people. His former comrades, who were now his enemies, fell down one by one in front of him. New wounds were constantly appearing on his body, and blood was unceasingly flowing out. However, it seemed as if he didn't feel anything. He was still shouting and fighting bravely. There wasn't the slightest bit of pity in his eyes. The kindness and pureness in his eyes had turned into indifference and ruthlessness. He didn't even bother to deal with the injuries on his body. He was only venting the sorrow in his heart to his heart's content. The black saber was blocked with a loud clang sound. Sparks flew in all directions. Dong Wushang was panting for breath. He raised his blood-red eyes and looked at the scene. He saw that there were only a dozen or so people left in front of him. And all of them were looking at him in horror. The one who had blocked his saber was the Emperor-level expert who had spoken to him earlier. He turned his head to look, and saw that there were 50 corpses lying on the ground. They were badly mutilated. And there was a blood-stained road behind him. He was nearly 1,000 feet away from the cliff. The Emperor-level experts on the opposite side were scared witless. They felt as if they were in a dream. Moreover, it was a nightmare. 50 experts had been suppressed by him alone, and had been forced to retreat 1,000 feet. They had been retreating while people had been dying. But the other party hadn't relaxed at all. He had been charging and killing his way through. He had finally taken advantage of the opportunity when the other party had almost exhausted his strength to block the black saber. But he had also been shaken to the point that he had spat out a mouthful of blood. There were 10 people here, but only one of them is left. Moreover, all of them had been injured more or less. It was almost equivalent to a complete wipeout. And this was the fighting strength of the other party after he had been injured. Everyone was aghast as they thought of this. In particular, some low-ranked king-level experts and revered martial artists had a strange feeling in their hearts. I would have been invincible if I could have worked under such a brave and powerful clan lord, right? How awe-inspiring would that be? Dong Wushang felt that he didn't have much strength left in his body. His vision had also become somewhat fuzzy. This was a sign of excessive blood loss. He was very clear that he couldn't hold on any longer. But he wasn't resigned to this. I haven't killed everyone yet. He slowly withdrew his black saber. The tip of the saber was inserted into the ground. Then, he held the saber's hilt as if he was holding a walking stick. His eyes were as cold as ice as he swept his gaze over the people in front of him. Suddenly, he sneered mischievously. The faces of the people on the opposite side had turned as pale as paper. Everyone knew that they wouldn't be able to survive as long as Dong Wushang still had the strength to attack. They heard this sneer at this moment. Unexpectedly, they took a step back in unison. What a shame! The sneak attack from before was too light. The original plan was to have 10 elites deal with Dong Wushang, and the remaining 40 people. But they had to monitor the Yu family. After all, this is no small matter. We have to be on guard from all sides. These people will lie in ambush here. The other 40 people will change into the Yu family's clothes. The 10 people from the Yu family and the Black Devil people will lie in ambush 100 miles away. The time and distance must be separated. After we finish the attack, we have to make sure that Dong Wushang doesn't have any ability to move. Then, we have to retreat immediately. The people lying in ambush will inform the Yu family. The Yu family will immediately inform the Black Devil. The Black Devil will come and get rid of Dong Wushang. In this way, the Black Devil won't know that there's a civil war in the Dong family. Moreover, the Black Devil will be the scapegoat. Even if the Dong family suspects us, we can just push it away. We didn't kill him. Moreover, the Black Devil will certainly spread the news that they killed Dong Wushang. Didn't you hear it? If everything goes smoothly, we won't have any responsibility. We will eliminate the 2 dukes and guarantee the position of the Grand Duke. Henceforth, the Dong family will outshine the others and develop rapidly. The Black Devil will never be so stupid as to betray their ally, the Yu family. Because they will certainly want to use the Yu family for bigger things. But the Dong family won't give them that opportunity. Therefore, everyone is happy. We and the Yu family won't be suspected. Dong Wushang is dead. Everyone will do their best to kill the enemy even if they have to face the Black Devil in the future. There's nothing to say about that. But they had never expected that things would go completely beyond their expectations. They had gone from being confident in their victory to a bitter fight. Moreover, both sides have suffered losses. Dong Wushang is so dreadful. Everyone's intestines turned green with regret at this moment. We would have killed Dong Wushang if we had known this would happen. Then, we would have left Dong Wushang's corpse to the Black Devil. But, it's too late to say anything now. The 10 people looked at each other from afar. Everyone was seizing the time to regulate their breathing and recover their strength. The scene had suddenly quieted down from the fierce fight. Du Lu Feng was standing alone on the other side of the forest. He hadn't moved at all. He was still standing there in silence. However, the bulging muscles on the surface of his body had completely recovered. It was obvious that he would soon recover. Dong Wushang held the hilt of his saber, and panted heavily. He stimulated his vitality with all his strength. Finally, he firmly looked at the people in front of him from his scattered hair. His eyes looked like 2 bolts of lightning brimming with murderous intent. He took a heavy step forward, and pulled out his black saber from the ground with a clang sound. Then, he slowly raised it. He pursed his lips, and revealed a cruel arc. The people on the opposite side took a step back. In fact, their legs were somewhat trembling and weak. The domineering aura that Dong Wushang displayed with this step made them feel as if they were facing the Grim Reaper, and they couldn't resist at all. Du Lu Feng let out a long shout at this time. He had finally cleansed his body of the saber energy. Then, he jumped up. Dong Wushang! Second Master, you can go in peace! His body flashed, and he suddenly jumped up in midair. Then, he pounced towards Dong Wushang like a thunderbolt. Dong Wushang had already raised his saber by this time. The corners of his mouth curled into a mocking smile. Suddenly, a meteor came from behind him with a schwa sound. Its speed was so fast that it issued a sharp sonic boom in the air. The friction in the air produced a faint white light as this meteor flew past. And it dispersed with the wind. It was a sharp arrow. Dong Wushang felt a sense of crisis approaching him. But he didn't have enough time to dodge since he was exhausted. He only had enough time to twist his body. The sharp arrow pierced through Dong Wushang's back with a puff sound, and flew out from his right side. It was only half a foot long, and was as thin as a mosquito's. It pierced through Dong Wushang's chest, and flew forward at a high speed. Then, it pierced deeply into the front of a king-level expert. Dong Wushang's body shook. He lowered his head, and looked at the bloody hole in his chest. He felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Then, he suddenly exhaled a long breath. The black saber slowly fell. The tip of the saber pointed downwards, and pierced into the ground. He held the saber hilt with both hands, and the corners of his mouth curled into an apologetic smile. Chapter 630. Du Lu Feng hastily rushed over. His eyes were filled with pleasure and cruelty. However, something happened as soon as he jumped up. A black shadow suddenly flashed out of the woods like a demon. It arrived behind Du Lu Feng in 3 big strides like a meteor. Then 2 iron hands heavily patted his back while Du Lu Feng was feeling the most elated. This heavy blow was carried out in midair. However, it still produced a thunderous sound. It was a loud sound. It shook the air, and caused the air to tremble and fluctuate. Du Lu Feng shouted loudly. Then, he used all his strength to grab the enemy behind him. The enemy didn't have enough time to attack him. And he didn't have enough time to be sent flying. Du Lu Feng bit the enemy's arms from behind his back, and counterattacked with all his strength. It seemed as if the bodies of the 2 people were tied together. The ferocious attacking power finally displayed its effect at this time. Du Lu Feng faced upwards and roared. However, he spouted out a rain of blood. The bodies of the 2 people were sent flying like meteors. Oh, wrong! Du Lu Feng had been sent flying. However, the person who had attacked him had also been sent flying along with him. That person screamed in fear. He exerted his strength with both of his hands, and tried to break free. However, Du Lu Feng had already angrily shouted, "Black Devil!" Then, a great plan descended on his body like a storm. The person who had been sent flying was a black-clothed and masked man. This black-clothed and masked man was a heavenly assassin of the Black Devil clan. His true cultivation wasn't as good as Du Lu Feng's 8th grade emperor level. However, the difference wasn't far. In particular, his concealment technique and assassination skills were outstanding. He had hidden in the woods, and had launched an attack. And he had succeeded in one fell swoop. However, it was a pity that he had also lost his life. The two people were tightly entangled in midair. It seemed as if a pair of hoodlums were fighting. They were crazily hitting each other without any order. The domains of the two people rose at the same time. However, they cancelled each other out at the same time. They turned into nothingness. Every fist hit the flesh, and every foot hit the ground. Fists, feet, teeth, elbows, knees, shoulders, waist, and buttocks were all attacking weapons. In fact, even the head was a weapon. That black devil expert had spared no effort to struggle free. However, Du Lu Feng had wanted to drag him down with him even if he had died. I've received that blow. So, I won't have any fighting power even if I'm still alive. So, it would be better for me to burst out completely. Some people might ask why the black devil didn't attack Du Lu Feng when he was adjusting his saber energy. Wouldn't that be more convenient? Du Lu Feng had obviously been regulating his breathing at that time. The saber energy had also damaged his meridians. However, Du Lu Feng would have fought back if the enemy had attacked him with a fatal blow. He would have risked serious injury to his meridians to kill the enemy. Besides, when he was healing, he was at his most vigilant. Black Demon did not have the confidence to sneak over silently. Now that he had just stood up, his vigilance was even lower. He was even more confident that victory was within his grasp. Now that he had completed his task, he would deliver a fatal blow. That was when he truly did not have the slightest bit of defense. Their bodies tangled together as they tumbled down. By the time they landed on the ground, both of them were no longer in shape. Both of their mouths were crazily spurting out mouthfuls of blood. The dignified Emperor-level experts. One of them was an 8th grade, and the other was a 7th grade. But blood had splashed out from every part of their bodies when they had fallen to the ground. And the sounds of Kacha and Kacha were unceasingly resounding. It was unknown how many bones in their bodies had been broken. Both of them let out a final roar. They tilted their heads and opened their blood-red mouths. Their white teeth bit into each other's throats at almost the same time. Both of them didn't dodge. That was because both of them knew that they had no hope of surviving. So, they had to drag their opponent down with them before they died. Puff! Puff! Blood gushed out from both of their throats at the same time. And they died at the same time. They had died an unnatural death. Dong Wushang allowed the blood to splash out from his chest and back. He remained motionless, and his face was full of ridicule. There was also a card on his chest. This card was the symbol of Chu Yang's Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Dong Wushang clearly knew that there was a medicinal pill in this card. Big Brother had once said that he could recover in an instant if he took this pill, as long as his heart wasn't pierced, and as long as his head wasn't blown up on the spot, and wasn't chopped off. Dong Wushang knew that he had always known about this. But he had never thought of taking this pill. His heart was already dead. Like dead ashes. His elder brother had wanted to deal with him. And the experts under his command had come out in full force. This was already an extremely heavy blow to him. And it had smashed all the beautiful wishes in his heart to pieces. Father, you're the clan lord. How could you not know about such a big movement? Dong Wushang asked in a low voice. Tears almost flowed out again. But he forcibly held them back. Even you don't want me anymore? Dong Wushang was very clear about the strict rules of the Dong clan and the strict management of its personnel. Such a large group of people, no matter why they had come out, would inevitably be recorded in the clan. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to leave the Dong clan's gate. Therefore, Dong Wushang was even more heartbroken and desperate. I can survive if this is the case. What can I do? What can I do? The education I've received since childhood is for the clan. Everything is for the clan. My many years of hard work is for the clan. Even some of the reasons I've followed Big Brother are for the clan. Big Brother said that he wants to lead our clan to the top of the heavens. I want to lead the Dong clan to the top of the upper three heavens. Unfortunately, you didn't give me the chance. Who will I fight for after today? Who will I risk my life for? Who will I work hard for? Even my father is indifferent to my life and death. Even my elder brother wants to kill me. Then, what's the point of me living? Dong Wushang smiled bitterly. He smiled in despair. He smiled with a dead heart. I can take out the pill at any time. And I can recover in a moment. Even if the Heimo clan has 10 times more people, they still won't be able to stop Dong Wushang, who has fully recovered his strength. But Dong Wushang refused to accept this. It's only death. Ha! How lively! I never imagined that this duke would actually come here this time to watch a good show of a fierce battle. A gloomy voice sounded out from afar, and the voice carried unrestrainable excitement and complacency. Moreover, this good show is an internal strife. This makes me even more excited. A black figure came from afar along with this voice. He was walking slowly and confidently. He was immensely complacent and calm. This person was dressed in black. He wore a long black robe. His face was covered with a black cloth. He walked on the road as if his feet didn't touch the ground. There were more than 40 black-clothed people behind him. There seemed to be bloodstains on their bodies. Some of them were even injured. However, they were looking at the 10 people who were still standing in front of them with a victorious look in their eyes. They had the right to be proud. The enemies in front of them didn't have the slightest strength to fight back. They were practically waiting to be killed. There was no threat to speak of. The enemy's strongest 8th grade Emperor-level expert had turned into a pile of rotten meat on the ground at this moment. Our side has also paid the price of a 7th grade Emperor-level expert's life. But it was worth it. The remaining people of the Dong clan were dumbstruck. Their faces were full of despair. That Emperor-level expert shuddered. Then, he suddenly shouted, "Black Devil!" That black-clothed man issued a sinister laugh. His laughter was sinister, but it was obvious that he was happy. He slowly took a step forward, and said in an elegant manner, "That's right. I hadn't expected that the illustrious and powerful Dong clan would have heard of the name of my Black Devil clan. Yes, I am the next Black Devil of the Black Devil clan. You can call me Lord Devil." "Lord Devil?" that Emperor-level expert of the Dong clan muttered. Then, his body suddenly shook, and he shouted, "Where are our people? Where are the people of the Yu clan? You! Black Devil, how did you get here? Where are our people?" The young Black Devil was surprised as he said, "Your people? Ah ha ha, you still have people there. Your people are missing. You should go and look for your people." "Why are you asking me? How would I know?" That Emperor-level expert snorted and said resentfully, "Then, where are the people of the Yu clan?" "The people of the Yu clan? The people of the Yu clan don't have the surname Dong. So you can't ask them." The young Black Devil laughed out loud. "However, I see that you are very pitiful. So, I will make an exception and answer your question." He shook his head and said, "You mean the 100 people of the Yu clan? Humph, they dared to betray the people of the Dong clan. I can't stand such ingrates. So, I will do your Dong clan a big favor, and kill them all. I will chop off their heads." He chuckled and said, "It just so happens that the Black Devil clan took a job. Many of them were on the list. So, I brought back their heads after I killed them. Do you want to see?" That Emperor-level expert's body swayed. His face became even paler. He opened his mouth, but didn't say anything. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Black Devil, you! He pointed at the Black Devil, but couldn't say anything. He could only spit out mouthful after mouthful of blood. "It's over. It's all over. Only 10 people of the Yu clan have come. But the Black Devil has killed more than 100 people. It's obvious that the extra 40 people were the people of the Dong clan. Our only hope is gone." "Black Devil?" Dong Wushang seemed to have reacted. His body was somewhat sluggish. He turned around and looked at the Black Devil young master. His eyes lit up. It's you? The Black Devil young master sighed. Brother Dong! Dong Wushang turned around and blocked the saber. Then, he coldly said in a low and deep voice. You came to kill me, right? Yes. The Black Devil young master looked up and sighed. I didn't expect that I would encounter such a situation. But Brother Dong, I'm also grateful for this situation. After watching your fight, I realized that I'm not as good as you. He laughed. Although his laughter this time was sinister, it was filled with disappointment and respect. If I were to face you directly, I'm afraid that you would definitely be able to break out of the encirclement unscathed. On the other hand, my side would suffer heavy casualties. Dong Wushang's body swayed. He didn't say anything. I'm sorry, Brother Dong. I'm sorry that I can't have a fair fight with you. Even though I want to. The Black Devil young master solemnly said. But I must kill you today. In order to show my respect for you, I'll kill this person first. Then I'll kill you. It can be considered as taking revenge for you. So, you can rest in peace in the underworld. Dong Wushang sneered and said in a mocking tone. The Black Devil clan has an internal strife? Ha ha ha. What a joke. Revenge? Humph. Do I need you to take revenge for me? Third update. I'm afraid the fourth update won't be enough. Let's make it up to you tomorrow, brothers and sisters. I need your guaranteed monthly votes for May. The 1st to the 7th month of the 5th month will still require double monthly votes. This is a rare opportunity. I hope that everyone will accompany me and try again. Chapter 631. Dong Wushang sneered and sneered. The Black Devil clan is taking advantage of internal strife? Ha ha ha! How laughable! Revenge? Humph! Do I need you to take revenge for me? The Black Devil young master was startled. He carefully looked at Dong Wushang's chest and the injuries all over his body. He was sure that Dong Wushang was like a lamp that had run out of oil. So, he asked in bewilderment, Brother Dong, you're already like this. Don't tell me you still want to take revenge with your own hands? Dong Wushang coughed and laughed. He stopped his body while laughing, and raised his head. His blade-like eyes looked disdainfully at the Black Devil young master. Then, he didn't care that his body was bleeding unceasingly. He didn't care that his life force was draining away. He operated his primary power with all his strength. His body gradually emitted the unique aura of a saber emperor as he operated his cultivation technique. He didn't move. But the aura he suddenly emitted still shocked the Black Devil young master. He was seriously injured and on the verge of death. But the glorious aura he emitted at this moment was no different from his peak. He was still looking disdainfully at the world. He was still dominating the Jianghu. His body couldn't stop shaking. But he was still an unshakable lofty mountain in the eyes of the Black Devil assassins. This was a natural heroic spirit. It was a mighty and domineering aura in his bones. It couldn't change even if he died. Even these cold-blooded assassins couldn't help but reveal a look of admiration in their eyes when they faced such a heroic figure. Dong Wushang looked at the Black Devil young master with a smile that wasn't a smile. He naturally had a sense of disdain in his eyes. Then, he said somewhat regretfully and mockingly, So, you're not a hero. I'm not a hero. The Black Devil young master was startled. He muttered and repeated this sentence. Then, he said in puzzlement, Brother Dong, please enlighten me. I died today because I wanted to die. So I died. So, I don't need anyone to take revenge for me. Dong Wushang laughed and proudly said, No one in the world can make me die if I, Dong Wushang, don't want to die. Do you understand? The Black Devil young master frowned. He pondered for a while and said, I understand this sentence. I also understand why you didn't run away. I also understand why you wanted to die. It's because your heart is dead. That's right. Dong Wushang laughed at himself and said, Moreover, I don't want anyone to take revenge for me. But I do. But someone will take revenge for me. Only they have the right to avenge me, and you You don't deserve it! The black demon young master narrowed his eyes and said in a gloomy voice, I'm not worthy. That's right, you're not worthy. You don't deserve to avenge me. Dong Wushang laughed disdainfully. You're just an assassin who hides in the dark and doesn't dare to see the light of day. I, Dong Wushang, have always been open and aboveboard. I've run amok in the world. Do you think that you're worthy to avenge me? The black demon young master glared at him. The ominous glint in his eyes became more and more intense. It seemed as if he was about to fly into a rage out of humiliation. The look in Dong Wushang's eyes did not change. He was still arrogant and cynical. They looked at each other for a long time. Then, the black devil young master gasped for breath. Finally, he lowered his head in disappointment. He forced a smile and said, Yes, I'm not worthy, he said somewhat enviously. Perhaps, only King of Hell Chu and Gu Du Xing are worthy of taking revenge for you. I really don't deserve it. You're right, because I'm just an assassin in the dark. The black devil young master chuckled and said indifferently, However, I have no choice in this matter. Dong Wushang, if you were in my place, you wouldn't be so heroic and tyrannical. He seemed to have found an excuse for himself as he said this. His voice became calm again. Heroes don't ask where they come from. Dong Wushang sneered and said, You're looking for an excuse to absolve yourself. That's not what a hero should do. Are Chu Yang and Gu Du Xing heroes? The black devil young master seemed somewhat unconvinced. Dong Wushang's eyes suddenly brightened when he heard him mention Chu Yang and Gu Du Xing's names. Then, they immediately darkened. Yes. They are my brothers. My best brothers. Therefore, they deserve to avenge me. Dong Wushang said proudly. Then I don't understand. Since you still have good brothers in this world, why don't you want to live anymore? The black devil young master asked in a somewhat critical manner. Don't tell me that you're not afraid that your brothers will be sad for you. I also want to meet with them. But I can't. Dong Wushang's words were clearly not an answer to the black devil young master. Instead, he was explaining something to his brothers. Or, he was explaining it to himself, or to the world. His voice was somewhat ethereal and somewhat sad. Because my heart is dead. Even if I live, this will be my inner demon. I can't get rid of it for life. Therefore, I can't keep up with their footsteps. I know what I care about the most. Therefore, I can't control myself from thinking about these things. Therefore, my heart is dead. I can only endlessly burden them if I live. Dong Wushang smiled faintly. He looked at the black devil young master with pity. Do you know that my brothers are all heaven-defying talents? How can I burden them? How can a person who burdens his brothers be qualified to live? Although my brothers don't care, I, Dong Wushang, care. Therefore, Black Devil, I sympathize with you the most, because you don't even have a real brother. If you had one, you wouldn't have asked me this question. Dong Wushang looked at him mockingly. The gloomy aura around the Black Devil young master's body became even denser. Dong Wushang's mockery seemed to have hit his weak spot. However, he panted heavily. He didn't say anything. Instead, he pondered. My brothers will be sad if I die. But if they avenge me, it will arouse their fighting spirit and make them even more united. They will cherish their brothers even more and work even harder. They will also achieve greater things. Dong Wushang said indifferently. So, what harm is there in the death of a person whose heart has died? I don't have brothers. I can't feel it. But I'm envious. The Black Devil young master's voice was somewhat gloomy and feminine as he said, But I'm an assassin who can't see the light of day. Don't you think it's too ridiculous for me to have brothers? Dong Wushang looked at him strangely. Whether you have brothers or not, does it have anything to do with whether you're an assassin or not? Does it have anything to do with it? Does it have anything to do with it? The Black Devil young master slowly muttered. After a long time, he raised his head. Even if it doesn't matter, even if I don't have brothers, what does it have to do with whether I'm a hero or not? But why do you say that I'm not a hero? He was somewhat agitated as he said, Even assassins can't see the light of day. But there are also heroes. It just depends on whether the meaning of being a hero is the same as yours. And this is Jianghu. What is Jianghu? Slaughter. Blood. Why do you say that I'm not a hero? Don't tell me that I'm not a hero when I take advantage of your perilous state to kill you? Don't tell me that I should wait for you to recover before I die at your hands. Then I'm a hero? His question was very urgent, very quick and very sharp. You don't understand what a hero is. Dong Wushang chuckled. Then he looked up and sighed. Fine. You're the last person I talk to in this world. So, I'll say a few more words to you. Otherwise, I'll be too lonely on the road to hell. You said that you want to take revenge for me first. Hee hee. Dong Wushang sneered and said, You killed them. So, what does it have to do with me? That's it. Secondly, they are my Dong clan's people. Even if I, Dong Wushang, am ostracized by my clan and killed by them, this is my Dong clan's matter. What does it have to do with you? Thirdly, no one can say anything if I kill them. But how can an outsider kill my Dong clan's people? Dong Wushang sneered. You want to kill them? So I'll kill you. I haven't been expelled from the clan. I'm still a member of the Dong clan. So I'm still their second master even if they want to kill me. You want to kill them? Have you asked for my permission? Dong Wushang continued to sneer. I can chop them into pieces. I would have perished together with them if you hadn't come today. If I kill all of you today, I'll kill all of them later. But they can't die in your hands before I die. Who do you think you are? Dong Wushang laughed out loud. You dare to kill my Dong clan's people? The Black Devil young master was wearing a veil over his face. But one could clearly see that he was dumbfounded. That was because his eyes had almost popped out of their sockets. There was also a clear dent in the mouth of his veil. He had never expected that Dong Wushang's reason would be this. But what kind of reason is this? Dong Wushang had wanted to kill me a moment ago. And I had also wanted to kill him as if I was cutting a watermelon. But he didn't allow me to kill him now. There's such a principle in the world. He would have sighed if he knew what Dong Wulei had said to Dong Wushang. These two brothers are worthy of being called brothers. Their protective nature is as good as that. Moreover, Dong Wushang is even better than his elder brother. It's unimaginable that he would be so protective of his younger brother to this extent. A man like you is very strange. The Black Devil young master smiled sinisterly. Then he sighed in a low voice and said, It would be a very lucky thing if someone could be the brother of a man like you. Dong Wushang took a deep breath and stopped his body from swaying. His eyes flashed with brilliance as he proudly said, That's because you haven't come into contact with my brothers. You would have known that being their brother is the luckiest thing in life if you knew what we've gone through. The Black Devil young master remained silent. I'm very lucky to be your brother. And I'm also very lucky to be your subordinate. Then, the Black Devil young master finally opened his mouth and said, I'm very moved. He raised his head, and his eyes flickered a little. But it's a pity that you must die today. I don't want to kill you. But I must kill you. An expert behind Dong Wushang suddenly said in a trembling voice. Second master. Shut up. Dong Wushang coldly shouted. You must die no matter what. Even if we die, we can't die in vain. This expert suddenly stuck out his chest. They had thought that they would die without a doubt behind Dong Wushang. But they had felt a surge of warmth in their bodies after Dong Wushang had spoken those words. Even if we die, we still have someone to protect us. He wants to kill us too. But he's still a member of the Dong clan. The Black Devil young master's eyes were filled with conflicting emotions. He looked at Dong Wushang's eyes. He was clearly hesitant. But he finally waved his hand and shouted, Attack! Kill! To be continued. Chapter 632. After saying this, he closed his eyes and turned around. It was as if he couldn't bear to see Dong Wushang being dismembered. Dong Wushang sneered. He slowly raised his saber from the ground. The blade was cold. This battle would be the last battle of his life. He slowly said, "Black Devil, are you not going to take my life personally?" Young Black Devil's eyes flashed with a complicated light. He said eerily, "I don't dare." This sentence was eerie, but it was very real. It was definitely not sarcastic. He didn't dare. He really didn't dare. Because the current Dong Wushang could still explode with a final attack at any time. And it was also his only attack. Even if Dong Wushang died immediately after this final attack, the Black Devil couldn't avoid being injured. It just depended on the severity of the injury. Dong Wushang laughed. He slowly raised his saber in front of his chest. He looked up to the sky and shouted, "Black Devil, although we are about to be separated by life and death, this sentence of yours is the greatest respect for me, Dong Wushang. You don't dare! You don't dare! Ha ha! Who dares?" Dong Wushang roared. He glared and took a step forward. His eyes shot out a divine light. He looked at the experts of the Black Devil in front of him. Young Black Devil's face was red behind the veil. There were more than 10 high-level assassins of the Black Devil in front of Dong Wushang. They were intimidated by his aura. All of them suddenly felt their hearts palpitate. It was as if their hearts had suddenly stopped beating. They unexpectedly took a step back in unison. Their eyes involuntarily revealed a look of fear. Dong Wushang was on the verge of death. His power suppressed more than 10 top assassins, and none of them dared to take a step forward. "Who dares?" Dong Wushang roared again. He took another step forward. His blood-stained black hair suddenly flew up and fluttered in the wind. He looked like a demon god. The Black Devil's subordinates took another step back. They wanted to stand up and face the attack. These people were all murderers. Who had they feared in their lives? But at this moment, they couldn't take a step forward. Their hearts wanted to go forward, but their feet couldn't help but retreat. Some people wanted to roar to boost their morale, but they found that they couldn't. Dong Wushang's earth-shattering aura made them completely unable to raise any thoughts of resistance at this moment. "Who dares? Who dares to fight with me, Dong Wushang?" Dong Wushang let out a long howl. Then, he took another step forward with a loud boom. Suddenly, he burst out laughing. "Ha ha! How delightful!" The Black Devil young master looked at Dong Wushang's godlike appearance. Suddenly, his mind shook, and his eyes became somewhat intoxicated in an instant. This was a true hero. A peerless hero. At this moment, Dong Wushang gave Black Devil young master a feeling. Even if the sky were to collapse at this moment, Dong Wushang would still be able to split it into two with a single slash. A real man like Dong Wushang would not have lived his life in vain if he could have this kind of spirit. It was a pity that such a hero was going to fall in his own hands, dying at such a young age. It was a pity. What a Dong Wushang! Good spirit! The Black Devil young master circulated his martial power with all his might, and praised with a thunderous voice. This sentence cut Dong Wushang's imposing aura in half. After all, Dong Wushang was already an arrow at the end of its flight. More than a dozen Black Devil experts seemed to have been awakened from a dream at the same time. Each of them had an extremely ashamed and angry look on their faces. They all shouted at the same time. "Go!" The Black Devil young master looked up to the sky and sighed. More than a dozen experts rushed forward at the same time. Dong Wushang burst out laughing. "Come on!" He raised his saber, and rushed out with big strides. His body was seriously injured, and he couldn't jump. But he still took big strides forward with an upright posture. In fact, it seemed as if he was crossing a mountain with one step, and crossing a sea with one step. One step, and one cycle. One step, and one life and death. Both sides were about to engage in close combat. An intense ruthlessness flashed in Dong Wushang's eyes. The saber light flashed, and the 280-kilogram black saber was raised high. At this moment, the sound of galloping horses' hooves suddenly resounded from a distance like rolling thunder. The sound of galloping horses' hooves was as rapid as a gale, and as dense as a shower. Just by listening to this, one could imagine how anxious the person on the horse was at this moment. Everyone who was about to engage in battle was shocked in their hearts. A man and a horse were rushing over from a distance like a whirlwind. The man hadn't arrived yet, but he had already anxiously roared, "Wu Shang!" This roar came from a distance like a thunderclap, and echoed from all directions. Anxiety, heartache, fear, worry, pampering, all kinds of emotions seemed to be contained in this roar. This roar was simply the fusion of the 7 desires of life. Dong Wu Shang suddenly raised his head, and looked at the man and his horse in disbelief. His eyes suddenly emitted a luster, and his lifeless eyes finally regained some vitality. Ma Rulong arrived in front of them very quickly. A figure jumped down from the horse's back as if he was flying. He glanced at the 50 men of Hamo in an indifferent manner. It seemed as if he didn't care about them at all. As if no one else was present. Dong Wu Lei. Several assassins of Black Devil coldly snorted, and were about to attack. The young man's eyes emitted a dazzling light. But he waved his hand, and snorted. Several assassins of Black Devil kept quiet out of fear, and shrank back. Dong Wu Shang looked at his elder brother walking towards him. He suddenly became very excited. It seemed as if he was looking forward to something. Is this for real? Dong Wu Lei didn't have any misgivings. He passed through the crowd with no regard for anyone else. He strode over, and stood in front of Dong Wu Shang. Then, his sharp gaze swept over Dong Wu Shang's body from top to bottom. He swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva, and his pupils shrank. A look of worry and heartache flashed across his eyes. But he quickly concealed it, and changed it into a calm and controlled voice. Who did this? Who hurt my brother? Dong Wu Shang's body suddenly trembled with these words. His nose turned sour, and his ice-cold heart recovered in an instant. His tightly shut mouth couldn't help but flatten in a split second. He remembered when he was young, he would cause trouble outside, fight with others, and suffer losses. But his elder brother would always arrive in time, and then look at the injuries on his body, and ask with heartache, Who did it? Who hit my brother? He hadn't heard these words since he was 10 years old. But he finally heard them today. Dong Wu Shang suddenly realized that he had become weak. Dong Wu Shang didn't know when this word weak had faded from his life. But he suddenly wanted to cry out loud at this moment. This was inconceivable for a man like Dong Wu Shang who was made of iron. But this was the fact. His nose turned sour, and his tears started to flow uncontrollably. The remaining experts of the Dong clan behind Dong Wu Shang trembled. Some were happy, some were worried, and some were puzzled. How did eldest young master come here at this time? There are enemies everywhere. Dong clan doesn't have any fighting power. So, he came here alone. What should we do? Moreover, it's strange. Could it be that eldest young master didn't know about the ambush of the second duke? Moreover, he opposed it? But young mistress, I'm confused. I'm really confused. Black Devil! I want to bandage my brother's wounds. You can kill him later if you want to. Dong Wu Lei looked at Dong Wu Shang with his back facing the Black Devil. He insipidly said without turning his head, I'm the only one from the Dong clan this time. You can rest assured. You can wait until I'm done with my business. Is that okay? Young Black Devil swallowed his saliva with some difficulty. He didn't know why, but his eyes had become moist. But he took a deep breath, and said in a gloomy manner, You're about to die. Why are you bandaging your wounds? Won't you become a corpse in a while even if you bandage your wounds like a rice dumpling? Dong Wu Lei tore a strip of cloth from his underwear, and started to bandage Dong Wu Shang's wounds as if no one else was present. He insipidly said, I'm going to die in a while. But that's another matter. But I must bandage his wounds before I die. This bastard doesn't know how to take care of himself. He doesn't know how to stop the bleeding. Even if I go to the underworld with him to meet the ancestors. I'm his elder brother. What if the ancestors asked me, why is my brother in such a miserable state? Wouldn't I lose face as his elder brother? I must bandage my brother's wounds even if I die in an instant. Dong Wulei insipidly said. How I treat my brother is my responsibility. I can't throw away this responsibility in life and death. Although I'm very jealous of him. And I also want him to disappear. Dong Wushang wanted to say something. But he felt that his throat was choked with emotions. He couldn't say a word. Young Black Devil calmly looked at them for a while. Then, he said in a hoarse voice, All right. I'll give you brothers a quarter of an hour in that case. Dong Wulei paused for a moment. Then, he said in a low and deep voice, Black Devil, you're worthy of being a hero among assassins. Young Black Devil didn't know why, but he felt somewhat comforted in his heart when he heard these words. He forced a smile and said in his heart, Your younger brother just scolded me for not being a hero. He scolded me until I was bleeding. But you're doing the opposite now. You're saying that I'm a hero. You didn't fully admit it. You only said that I'm a hero among assassins. But you're much more polite than your younger brother. He couldn't help but ask as he thought of this. Dong Wulei, are you a hero? Dong Wulei didn't turn his head as he replied. I'm not. Heroes die quickly. Just like this stupid pig Dong Wushang. I'm not a hero. I can barely be regarded as a very incompetent and far-fetched ambitious and ruthless person. Dong Wulei was indeed not a hero. He was even jealous of his own younger brother. He had pushed him aside. He had fought for power and profit in his clan. He had used all his schemes. How could he be regarded as a hero with such behavior? But he wasn't an ambitious and ruthless person. An ambitious and ruthless person would never be as impulsive as he was now. He would have made a prompt decision to retreat if he had been an ambitious and ruthless person when he had seen the people of Black Devil Clan surrounding the dying Dong Wushang. He would have prioritized his own life no matter how much pain and unwillingness he had felt at that time. However, Dong Wulei had rushed over without any consideration. That was because he had seen his younger brother's entire body covered in blood. It seemed as if he would die in the next moment. And he had suddenly forgotten everything. He had forgotten power. He had forgotten benefits. He had forgotten status. Chapter 633. The World Defying Heavens by Wind Conquers the World. If you like this work, please vote for it or collect it. Don't know how to vote or collect it? Please read the post, D4467, Let's dance in the clouds and defy the heavens together. Let's read this magnificent chapter together. There was only one thought in Dong Wulei's mind at that moment. This is my younger brother. I won't let him die even if I die. I'll die with him even if he has to die. My younger brother is young. He'll be alone on the road to hell. He'll be afraid. Therefore, he impulsively rushed towards his younger brother. He had always been jealous and suspicious of him. I don't have to shed tears. But I must make sure that he doesn't get injured. Young Black Devil became silent when he heard Dong Wulei's words. If someone understood him, they would have discovered that young Black Devil, the future king of the world of assassins, was silently laughing. Dong Wulei had already started to bandage Dong Wushang's wounds in a deft manner. He tore off a piece of underwear from Dong Wushang's body, and started to bandage his younger brother's wounds one by one. This well-dressed great duke of the Dong clan had rushed over in a short period of time. But his body was already in tatters. The people of the Black Devil clan silently looked at the two brothers. One of them had tears in his eyes. He was standing motionless. And the other was constantly busy. He was meticulously bandaging Dong Wushang's wounds. His strength was gentle and careful. However, no one dared to move before young Black Devil gave the order. Besides, the Dong brothers were like turtles in a jar. They couldn't run away. So, they weren't in a hurry. Dong Wulei's heart had already sunk while he was bandaging his younger brother's wound. A kind of despair had welled up in his heart. He wanted to cry. Dong Wushang's body had over 100 big and small injuries. The most serious one was a bloody hole in his chest. It ran from the front to the back. His waist had been punched. But it had swollen all around. But his waist had caved in. This was a serious internal injury. Dong Wulei's hands were trembling. He still had a slim hope. My younger brother is a martial arts genius. He's a saber emperor. I would have bandaged his wounds. And I would have gone all out with my subordinates to cover Dong Wushang's escape. However, he was in despair now. Dong Wushang's injuries. He hadn't died on the spot. It was already very good. He could die at any time if he used too much strength. There was no way to save him. He was dead for sure. Dong Wulei's breathing became coarse and heavy. He was exerting more and more force. His voice sounded like the roar of an ox. He was trying his best to control his bitterness and heartache, but he couldn't. He only felt that his chest was sore and painful. It was so painful that he wished he was dead. Dong Wushang stood there contentedly. Right now, his heart was filled with happiness. My brother is still my brother. I'm content. Dong Wulei bandaged most of Dong Wushang's serious wounds. Then, he turned his head to look at the remaining members of the Dong clan while tying knots on his brother's wounds. Everyone wanted to avoid his gaze. But Dong Wulei's sharp gaze had already shot over. Is it you who injured Wushang? His voice was heavy and oppressive. It was still dull and indifferent. However, he had clenched his teeth as he spoke. Anyone would be able to hear the resentment contained in these words. Yes. Everyone agreed at the same time. Then, they lowered their heads. They realized at the same time, we are done for. Eldest young master doesn't know about this matter arranged by eldest young mistress. Everyone wasn't afraid of death. But they were afraid that they would be branded as traitors before they died. Then, their wives and children in the clan would be finished. The muscles on Dong Wulei's face twitched. He exposed a somewhat hysterical and sinister expression. Then, he swallowed a mouthful of air and insipidly said, What about the others? Dead? All dead. Even the second senior elder is dead. Everyone felt sorrowful in their hearts. Had I known earlier that eldest young master didn't mean to do this? Why did I bother to do this? Wouldn't these people have died in vain? It's good that they died. It's good that they died. It saves me the trouble. Dong Wulei nodded. He took a deep breath. Were they killed by the second senior elder? Or the Black Devil? Yes, it was the second senior elder. Everyone didn't dare to conceal anything. They nodded one after another. It's good that they died. It saves me the trouble? Is this the Grand Duke's evaluation of those people? Everyone felt dizzy. It's good that they were killed. Dong Wulei nodded again. He clenched his teeth and said, They deserve to die. They deserve to die. It's good that they were killed, again. Why didn't you people die? Dong Wulei's eyes suddenly became cruel and vicious like a vulture's. He coldly said, You obstructed the second senior elder as subordinates. You were disloyal, unfilial, heartless, and unrighteous. So why are you still alive? Everyone's face exposed a look of despair and grief. I've already punished that B*TCHU Xiao. And you people are my accomplices. Dong Wulei coldly said. When has the Dong clan's order ever been issued, from the mouths of ignorant women and children? You're so gullible that you've caused my brother and I to die here today. The Dong clan doesn't have a successor. Its destruction is right in front of your eyes. You've committed such a heinous crime. But you're still standing in front of me with a clear conscience? Everyone's complexion turned ashen. They were on the verge of collapse. Don't say that you're loyal to me, or to the Dong clan. You didn't deserve to be a member of my Dong clan from the moment you attacked the second senior elder. Dong Wulei's voice was soft. But his voice and countenance were stern. Bean-sized beads of cold sweat trickled down his face. But he lowered his head, and didn't dare to say a word. Big brother. Dong Wushang was so excited that he couldn't speak. Dong Wulei heaved a long sigh. He then said in a low and deep voice, Wu Shang, would you believe me if I said that I didn't know about this matter? I believe you. Dong Wu Shang nodded heavily. But he was happy from the bottom of his heart. Dong Wu Lei has personally risked his life in this hopeless situation. So, what's there to be worried about? What's there to not believe? Good brother. Dong Wu Lei laughed heartily. His face and eyes were biased towards a malicious temperament. So, it was somewhat strange for him to issue such a hearty laugh. I'm indeed afraid of you. I can't wait for you to disappear. Dong Wu Lei's gaze was still somewhat complicated as he looked at his younger brother. But I'll look for you myself if I can't bear it. And I'll make you leave. I'll kill you if you don't leave. I've worked hard for more than 20 years to become the clan lord of the Dong clan. I won't give up. Do you understand? I understand. Dong Wu Shang nodded heavily. My heart feels a lot more comfortable now that I've said these things. Dong Wu Lei smiled. I wouldn't have said it if it weren't for the fact that it was completely hopeless. He looked at his younger brother with concern as he said this. Then he asked, Can you still hold on? Yes. Dong Wu Shang nodded heavily. His complexion was weak, but his spirit was already roused. Good. You and I haven't fought together for many years. Dong Wu Lei faintly smiled. I didn't expect that we'd be fighting side by side in the final battle this time. In fact, it's a battle to the death. Speaking of which, I'm somewhat grateful to your sister-in-law. That's because she left a root for the Dong clan. He smiled and softly said, I had planned to divorce her as long as I returned this time. But now, I'm somewhat reluctant to part with her. Ha ha. Dong Wu Shang swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Then, he said in a low voice, Big brother, sister-in-law is doing this for your own good. For my own good. Dong Wu Lei smiled coldly. But, her reasons can't represent my feelings. Even the most heinous people have a reason for everything they do. Therefore, I never listen to reasons or explanations. I only look at the results. The results make me unhappy. So, they deserve to die even if they have a big reason. Dong Wu Lei sighed. He looked at Dong Wu Shang with heartache and regret. Brother Wu Shang, it's a pity that we're going to die today. It's a pity that your youth and unrivaled talent are going to be wasted. It's your big brother's fault. Dong Wu Shang's eyes emitted a fervent luster. He put his hand into his bosom and said, Big brother, we may not necessarily die. Dong Wu Shang felt an intense desire erupt in his heart at this moment. I don't want to die. His hand tightly grasped the jade token in front of his chest. It was the Heavenly Armament Pavilion's jade token. Dong Wu Lei felt his eyes become hot. He looked at his younger brother's young and happy face, and couldn't help but feel as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. He knew why Dong Wu Shang was so happy even though he had suffered such serious injuries. It was because he had been longing for himself. He had been longing for the revival of brotherly love. Dong Wu Shang had finally woken up today. However, it was already too late. But his younger brother was still so happy from the bottom of his heart even though he was about to die. Dong Wu Lei felt an intense pain in his heart. But he endured the intense sourness in his heart. He slowly stood up, turned his back, and said with sorrow, Yes, we may not necessarily die. However, he had secretly made up his mind, I won't let you die even if I have to die. You must die after me even if you have to die. I can't bear the thought of my younger brother being killed in front of me. Dong Wu Lei strode towards young Black Devil as he thought of this. His complexion was calm, and his footsteps were steady. Young Black Devil seemed to know what Dong Wu Lei wanted to do when he saw Dong Wu Lei walking over. So, he waved his hand to signal the others not to obstruct him. Dong Wu Lei arrived in front of young Black Devil without any hindrance. Young Black Devil looked at him with his sharp eyes. Then, he sinisterly said, Have you come to beg for mercy? The token in Dong Wu Shang's bosom cracked open with a soft sound. There was a small and flat purple crystal bottle inside. Dong Wu Shang's hand trembled as he said in his heart, Big brother, thank you. The next moment, The incomplete version of the heavy pill was already in his mouth. Dong Wushang suddenly felt a surge of heat in his dantian. The damaged meridians all over his body were like seedlings that had been in a drought for a long time. The meridians in his body were recovering at lightning speed at this moment. In fact, he could even feel the various wounds on his body. Moreover, he could feel the itchiness of his muscles as they healed. His meridians were repaired in the blink of an eye. His internal injuries were repaired the next moment. Then, his exhausted elemental power suddenly converged. Thousands of streams converged into a river, and gradually set off monstrous waves in his dantian. The wounds on his body scabbed over in a flash, and then fell off. The penetrating wound on his chest was fusing at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. It slowly turned into a small pit. Then, it slowly swelled up and smoothed out. Dong Wushang suddenly opened his eyes. Two sharp divine lights shot out from his eyes. They were like saber lights, and they came out majestically. At this time, Dong Wulei also said something to the Black Devil. "Let my younger brother go. I'll let you do whatever you want to me." I clicked on a few posts for monthly votes. I found that many of my brothers had written down their words when they were voting for me. I apologize for this. Those posts were posted by the system. They weren't on the front page of the book review section. I rarely clicked on them. Moreover, there were too many posts, and I didn't have time to read them. I might have missed a lot of them. I have to tell everyone that if you have any words or suggestions, you can post them in the book review section. I read them every day. Of course, there are some people scolding me in the book review section. But please rest assured that I've already been through a lot. Requesting monthly votes. There are still 2 more updates today. It will be a little late. I haven't eaten since I woke up. Requesting monthly votes. I won't say any more. Words are provided by the Qiheng Update team. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for it. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 634. Young Black Eagle's body trembled as he cried out. What? He had thought of many possibilities. He thought that Dong Wulei had come to beg for mercy, or to negotiate terms, or to surrender, or to. However, he hadn't expected that Dong Wulei wouldn't do anything, and would only say such a sentence. Dong Wushang was dead for sure in the current situation. However, if Dong Wulei had hardened his heart, he would have been able to break out of the encirclement and return alive. However, Dong Wulei had given up on him, and wanted his dying brother to go back. Don't you know that your brother won't live for long even if he goes back? Black Devil's voice was hoarse as he looked at Dong Wulei. Even if I don't kill him now, and let him leave, I'm afraid he'll die before he reaches the Dong clan's gate. Don't you know? Dong Wulei coldly snorted and said. So what? I just want my brother to go back. My brother went out to commit a crime for nearly a year. He hasn't seen my father, or my mother. Dong Wulei mischievously smiled and said, I miss him very much. I see him every day at home. It's cruel to see him before he dies, but it's better than not seeing him at all. I only have this one request. Do you agree? Ji Wulei insipidly said. You came here today to kill. In other words, you came here to kill Wushang. Now you've won a complete victory, and you've spared me. I'll die in your hands. I won't be able to hold on for long with my supreme injury. I'll die for sure. Your goal has been achieved. Do you agree? Dong Wulei asked in a deep voice. Moreover, this will reduce a lot of casualties for you. Do you agree? The young man, suddenly felt that he was panicking. Do I agree? Just as Dong Wulei said, I've achieved my goal this time. Moreover, this condition can reduce casualties and preserve my strength. Do I agree? Don't I agree? He hesitated. The Black Devil assassins around also looked at their young master with bright eyes. In their opinion, they couldn't agree at all. The psychological satisfaction of killing a powerhouse in a battle, and killing a high-ranking person, couldn't be replaced by any enjoyment. However, if he were to kill a helpless person, How could there be any pleasure in that? Wasn't the reputation of the Jianghu people based on stepping on the corpses of their enemies step by step? Good. Guillermo couldn't help looking at Dong Wushang's direction. He was ready to agree. He knew that he shouldn't agree, but he had to. The moment he opened his mouth, he suddenly saw Dong Wushang. Then, the words that were about to leave the door got stuck in his throat. Because Dong Wushang slowly stood up and walked over step by step. The broadsword stood upright on his shoulder, and his eyes shone brightly. Obviously, he was full of spirit and energy. The young man took a step back. Behind his mask, his mouth was wide open. His eyes were filled with disbelief. In the depths of his eyes, there was even a hint of joy. Perhaps, even the black demon himself did not know about this faint trace of joy Dong Wulei was about to urge him. But he suddenly felt that something was wrong. So, he followed young Black Devil's line of sight, and turned his head to look. He couldn't help but let out a "jie" sound. He was completely startled. His entire body stiffened. What did I just see? I actually saw a healthy younger brother. Dong Wulei blinked his eyes with all his might. He blinked again. Then, he raised his hand and rubbed his eyes with all his might. Suddenly, tears burst out of his eyes. He wanted to hold them back, but he couldn't help it. He covered his eyes with all his might, and coughed with all his might. This is too shameful. The old watermark of departure actually cried in front of so many enemies. Black Demon, I have recovered. Dong Wushang slashed with his broadsword, and a big tree in the distance fell down and split into pieces. Don't talk about any conditions. You can't kill us now. Do you regret it? Dong Wushang said indifferently. Dong Wushang was tall and sturdy. When he stood in front of young Hei Mi, young Hei Mo was tall and slender. However, when he stood in front of Dong Wushang, he was actually shorter than him by a head. The Black Devil young master took a deep breath. A strange look flashed through his eyes. He seemed to have heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he said in a sinister voice, Regret? Of course I regret it. I regret that I didn't kill you earlier. Even Dong Wushang could hear the insincerity in his words. He couldn't help but laugh. Young Black Demon stood there quietly for a while. He lowered his head. No one could see the look in his eyes. If someone saw it, they would be very surprised. Because his eyes clearly showed that he was relieved. He seemed to have found a reason to be relieved. He suddenly waved his hand and said, Give up on this mission. Leave immediately. He turned around and flew away. The 4 heaven-grade assassins behind him were the most astonished. We are leaving just like that? What are we doing here? So what if Dong Wushang has recovered? We have more than 10 people on our side. 4 heaven-grade assassins plus Xiaogui. In addition, we have more than 50 earth-grade assassins. Our strength is absolutely overwhelming. Even if we can't kill Dong Wushang, we can pay a price to severely injure him. And Dong Wushang will definitely die. Why should we leave when we have such a good situation? Young master, this. One of the heaven-grade assassins looked at his Xiaogui's back with some hesitation and said, I said leave. Young Black Demon snorted from afar. He said gloomily, Do you have an opinion? But we. Type drop mouth J reciprocal drop mouth. No buts. The world cries when the Saber Emperor appears. Haven't you heard of this sentence? Rather than forming an irreconcilable enmity, it's better to do a favor today. Young Black Demon said. His slender body floated far away. His gloomy voice came from afar. Dong Wushang, you owe me a favor. Remember. The Black Demon assassins were stunned for a while. That heaven-grade assassin finally waved his hand. He said with some hatred and unwillingness, Leave. Swish! Swish! The Hei Mo killers disappeared without a trace. Dong Wushang smiled bitterly. He knew that young Black Demon's words were not wrong. If it was a fight to the death, he wouldn't have a problem escaping even if he couldn't win against the enemy's numbers. However, the problem was that his elder brother would definitely die. Young Black Demon's departure was like sending an adult to him. Dong Wushang didn't know why young Black Demon, who was famous for being gloomy and terrifying in the three heavens, would leave so easily today. He knew that there must be a reason for this. However, he couldn't figure out what the reason was. It seemed that no matter what he said, it didn't make sense. However, he had to remember this favor. Moreover, no one could bear to owe such a favor between friend and foe. Yu Wushang and Dong Wulei hadn't noticed that the Black Devil young master had walked far away into the forest. But he had suddenly emerged from the treetops when he had entered the forest. It seemed as if he had glanced at them from afar. Then, he had disappeared into the dusky forest like a breeze. A gust of wind blew past, dispersing the sigh of an unknown emotion. However, how could these two brothers care about young Black Demon at this moment? Elder brother. Dong Wushang took a step forward excitedly. Wushang, you're fine? Dong Wushang couldn't believe it. Oh, I'm fine. Dong Wushang naturally knew that his big brother's divine medicine was a top secret. Elder brother was good to him. However, Dong Wushang was afraid of his big brother's unscrupulous ways to achieve his goal. Big brother would be in trouble if he knew about it. Therefore, Dong Wushang's gaze was evasive, and his words were vague. So fast. Genkai is clearly. Dong Wushang wanted to say, Genkai was clearly half dead. So, how did he recover so quickly? Isn't this too fake? However, he didn't say anything after thinking about it. Dong Wushang wasn't good at lying. So, he couldn't speak. His gaze kept wandering around. You're pretending to be Genkai? Dong Wushang finally thought of a possibility. His complexion couldn't help but sink as he asked angrily. Dong Wushang opened his eyes wide. He thought for a while, and felt that this was a good idea. So, he couldn't help but nod foolishly. You're pissing me off. Dong Wushang pointed his finger at Dong Wushang's nose. He thought that he was so regretful that he almost wanted to commit suicide. I didn't expect that this bastard was pretending. Doesn't that mean that he was watching me make a fool of myself from the beginning? I've lost a lot of face this time. Dong Wushang's face turned from white to red, from red to purple to black, and from black to green. Suddenly he roared. You bastard! Did you enjoy watching me make a fool of myself? He suddenly jumped up, and ferociously kicked Dong Wushang to the ground. Then, he pounced on Dong Wushang like a tiger, and rode on his body. Then, he gnashed his teeth, and rained down his fists. Dong Wushang didn't dare to fight back. He gritted his teeth, and took the beating. He didn't make a sound. Dong Wushang's anger would have subsided if he had begged for mercy. But the problem was, what kind of person was Dong Wushang? This guy was definitely a super ruthless person who wouldn't even let out a moan when he was smashed to death bone by bone. So, how could he possibly cry out? Not only did he not cry out, but he was also comforting himself in his heart. Elder brother's anger will be appeased if he beats a mortal. Isn't it just getting beaten by a mortal? I can hold on. However, he didn't know that the more he didn't cry out, the angrier Dong Wushang got. The angrier he got, the more he got beaten. Dong Wushang didn't make a sound even after Dong Wushang had beaten him for a long time. I'll beat you to death, you tough bone! Dong Wushang's eyes turned green with anger. He ferociously kicked him. This younger brother of his had been like this since childhood. He was naughty, but he didn't admit his mistake. He didn't make a sound no matter how much you beat him. He wouldn't say a word even if you beat him to death. I was wrong. Such a child could really make an adult anxious and angry. Cough cough, this point, those who have children at home should understand it very well. Dong Wushang's eyes suddenly turned red as he continued to beat him. He recalled that he had been so desperate and regretful that he wished he could commit suicide. Then, he suddenly sat down on the ground, and burst into tears. You bastard! You don't know that you scared me to death just now! How would I explain it to my parents if something had happened to you, stupid pig? You're such a stupid pig! Dong Wulei was scared out of his wits when he saw Dong Wushang. I wrote this last paragraph 3 times, but I wasn't satisfied. So, I simply didn't describe it, and wrote it out plainly. Everyone can experience it for themselves. I've added one more chapter today. Counting last month's, there are 3 chapters today. I'll continue to write. I may not be able to write another chapter before midnight. But I'll need a monthly ticket if I can write another chapter. Well, I'll escape to write, and I'll need to double the time. Please do your best to support me. It'll be difficult to catch up after these 7 days. Of course, it'll be difficult for others to catch up if the distance between us is too big. Chapter 635. Dong Wushang and Dong Wulei were leading their horses on the road. They were talking as they walked. Both of them were feeling relaxed and happy. They hadn't felt this way for many years. The remaining experts were following behind them. Their lips were blue, and their faces were pale. They were trembling with fear. Unexpectedly, the 2 brothers didn't mention this person. They didn't say anything about how to deal with him. They didn't even talk to him. They just left him hanging. Someone wanted to say something, but he was embarrassed. He was nervous. This road was extremely torturous. Dong Wulei's eyes were still red. He would massage his eyes whenever he was free. Moreover, he would do it stealthily every time. He was very secretive. He was extremely embarrassed. Damn it, the old man actually cried out loud in front of everyone in the hall. His reputation was more or less ruined. Dong Wulei was at a loss. This is too shameful. Young clan lord Dong recalled how he had stretched out his legs and cried. He wished he could dig a hole in the ground and drill his head into it. I've been possessed. Isn't it better if this stupid pig dies? Why would I be sad? Motherfucker. Dong Wushang wasn't an insensible person. Dong Wushang would come forward and greet Dong Wulei every time he rubbed his eyes. He would have an honest look on his face. Big brother, are your eyes still uncomfortable? Sigh, I'm very touched. You, Sigh, you're crying. This is the first time I've seen you cry since you were a child. Dong Wulei would be too ashamed to show his face every time this happened. This bastard, can't you see that I'm rubbing my eyes secretly? You're still coming forward to console me, console my ass. Dong Wulei finally couldn't help but explode when Dong Wulei rubbed his eyes for the 8th time, and Dong Wushang cautiously came forward to console him for the 8th time. Dong Wushang was beaten into a pig's head in no time. He scolded as he beat him. How did that stupid pig king of hell Chu teach you? How did such a smart person become brothers with a stupid pig like you? You follow such a smart person every day. Didn't you learn some fucking tricks? You don't even have a little bit of understanding. Laugh. Try laughing again? I can't kill you, Dong Wushang covered his head while being beaten. His eyes were full of grievances. What's wrong? Fucker, you don't know what's good for you. Even when Gu Duxing and the others were suffering, I rarely comforted them. Isn't this because you're my big brother? Why? Is it wrong to be concerned about you? The more Dong Wushang thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt. I gave you an honor that no one else could enjoy, and you actually hit me? Unable to bear it, there was no need to bear it any longer. Who could tolerate this? Uncle can tolerate it, but Prudence can't. Let me go! Poof! Pooh! Let me go! Pooh! You're still not done yet? Dong Wushang finally lost his temper. He flipped over and launched punches and kicks at the same time, brazenly resisting. After this battle, the 2 brothers' faces were bruised and swollen. They lay on the ground and cried out. Dong Wulei didn't need to worry about the rims of his eyes turning red because they had already turned blue. After a long time, he said, Wushang, I think today's matter is a little strange. Weird? Yes. It was too strange. Why should Heimo let us go? Dong Wulei held a blade of grass in his swollen mouth like a pig's. He then started to ponder. That's true. I also feel that the Heimo today is a little abnormal. Dong Wushang's expression was a little strange. He blinked his eyes. One of them had black eyes, and the other had blue eyes. The best outcome for you and me brothers would have been to perish together if we had fought today. Or, we wouldn't have been able to do it. Dong Wulei deliberated. It could be said that he had the deepest understanding of Dong Wushang. Because I've come, and I've become a burden to you. You wouldn't have escaped if I hadn't escaped. So, the final result would have been that everyone would have fought with their lives on the line. But they had a lot of people. Their emperor-level experts weren't as sharp as your saber emperor. But 7 of them were far above you. You would have undoubtedly died if they had been willing to pay the price to fight you. The Dong clan would have collapsed if both of us had died. So, why did he give up at the most critical moment? Dong Wulei said. As for what he said about Saber Emperor comes out, and the world cries, that's nonsense. Could it be that Saber Monarch also cries? Saber Saint also cries? Could it be that he has some purpose? Dong Wushang sat up and pondered. Or, does he have some intention? Nonsense. What intention could the Black Devil have towards us? He wouldn't have any intention towards a hostile force like our Dong clan even if he had gone mad. Dong Wulei said in distress. But there must be a reason. And I'm afraid this reason isn't small. That's right. Dong Wushang touched his chin. He shouldn't have wanted me to owe him a favor, right? Dong Wulei was speechless. He rolled his eyes and said, Do you think you're a supreme-level expert? Supreme-level expert? I'm afraid it'll take a few years. Dong Wushang honestly replied. At least a few decades. Fuck. Dong Wulei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He spat out a mouthful of saliva. Then, he looked up and heaved a long sigh. I realized that I was afraid of you in the past. It was an unforgivable mistake. Can't you use your brain a little? Dong Wushang said as if it was a matter of course. Why would I need to use my brain when I'm with you? Dong Wulei was startled. Dong Wushang's ordinary words had revealed his unparalleled trust in his elder brother. Moreover, this trust had become a matter of habit. Why would I need to use my brain when I'm with you? Dong Wulei couldn't help but feel a little sour in his nose. He couldn't help but slap him. Don't be sentimental here. Sentimental? Dong Wushang caressed the back of his head. Then, he disdainfully said, You're sick. Dong Wulei was furious. A long time passed before he said, You must be more careful when you meet the Black Devil in the future. I feel that this matter isn't so simple. Dong Wushang nodded in agreement. He thought in his heart, not simple. Could it be that it's very perverted? Both of them got up from the ground. They were about to return to the clan. So, they were somewhat silent. I'll leave the clan in the future. Dong Wushang was silent for a long time. Then, he finally opened his mouth and looked at his elder brother with sincerity. Dong Wulei's body suddenly shook. A mountain can't accommodate 2 tigers. I am not suitable to stay in the clan. You and I can't fight. But there are many people in our clan who have ulterior motives or groundless fears. Dong Wushang racked his brain and pondered. Then, he said, Elder Dan, the consecrated elders, and the elders think that my aptitude surpasses yours. So I, and my father can't resist if they want to launch a coup. Dong Wulei silently lowered his head and walked forward. He was caught in a dilemma in his heart. He couldn't bear to let his younger brother leave. But he also didn't want his younger brother to stay at home. As for this person, forget about it. Dong Wushang smiled. You don't need to care about sister-in-law. After all, almost all the elites of the Yu clan were wiped out this time. They did it to deal with me. But they did it for you. Dong Wushang coldly snorted and said, How can there be such an easy thing? The contradiction and affection in his eyes suddenly changed into coldness and ruthlessness when he talked about this matter. The ambitious and ruthless side of Dong Wulei was finally revealed in front of him. Think more for your nephew, Dong Wushang said. Dong Wulei snorted. Both of them returned home while they were talking. The remaining experts obediently went to the discipline hall under Dong Wulei's command. They had almost lost half of their lives. But they didn't dare to say a word. Dong Qigong's worried face revealed a relieved smile when he saw the two brothers return together. Then, he saw that the two brothers had bruised noses and swollen faces. So, he anxiously asked what happened. He hit me. Dong Wushang pointed at Dong Wulei. He also hit me. Dong Wulei snorted. Dong Qigong laughed heartily. The worry in his heart was finally gone. Dong clan held a big banquet that night. Everyone drank to their heart's content. Dong Wulei hurried over halfway through the banquet. His complexion was gloomy. Dong Wushang didn't ask what his elder brother had done to sister-in-law. Dong Wulei also didn't say anything. The two brothers had a tacit understanding. I feel that I have to explain something here. Because I can't make up my mind. This Yu Xiu, what should I do? So, I have to be vague about it. It's not that I'm lazy. The next day, the Dong clan gathered their troops and prepared to go to war. Dong Wulei and Dong Wushang would naturally lead the expedition team. They would take a detour on this road. They wouldn't go through the Breaking Soul Cliff. Instead, they would go through the Double Sun Pass. They would pass through the Xuanyang Mountain Pass, and arrive at the Gu clan's territory. They would meet with Gu Duxing. Then, they would lead the troops north, and join forces with the Mo clan. The decisive battle that would take place in 3 days was finally about to begin. Dong Wushang and his father had a long talk that night. Dong Qigong also sighed for half the night. But he still reluctantly agreed in the end. Dong Wushang knelt in front of the clan's gate and kowtowed before the expedition. Then, he turned around, mounted his horse, and left. The group of people arrived at the Xuanyang Mountain Pass. There was a dense forest on both sides of the group. Dong Wushang was walking at the front. But he suddenly felt that something was wrong. He turned his head to look, and saw a black light flying out of the forest on the left side. It went straight for Dong Wushang. Dong Wushang snorted. He stretched out his hand, and caught this black light. It was a black feather arrow. Dong Wushang's body had already flown out from the horse's back when he had caught the arrow. His black saber turned into a black light. He and his saber merged, and entered the dense forest in a flash. Dong Wushang rushed out 400 feet in the dense forest with a schwa sound. But he didn't find anything. He was puzzled in his heart. But he suddenly saw some swaying grass from the corner of his eyes. So, he roared and pounced over. A black-clothed figure flew out from the grass with a rustling sound. Her body flashed, and she was already more than 100 feet away. Dong Wushang couldn't help but be stunned. This person had a slim figure. Her movements were like a weak willow swaying with the wind. Her speed was fast, but her movements were graceful and calm. She should be a young girl. How can a girl suddenly appear in such a place? Dong Wushang was stunned for a moment. Then, he continued to chase. The girl's movements were nimble, and her speed was also very fast. But, her cultivation was obviously far inferior to Dong Wushang's. That black-clothed girl was angry and anxious when she saw Dong Wushang chasing after her. She turned her head and shouted coldly, "I came to deliver you a message out of goodwill. Why are you chasing after me as if I'm your enemy? You're really a hothead." To be continued. Chapter 636. Dong Wushang was startled. He couldn't help but stop. That girl seemed to be relieved. She stretched her body, and disappeared without a trace. Dong Wushang could only vaguely make out a pair of sparkling eyes under the veil of the young girl's veil when she turned her head, sparkling like the cold stars in the sky. He stopped thoughtfully and looked at the black arrow in his hand. He saw a note tied to it. Ao Qin Yun, Ao Feng Yun, led a group of people to threaten the Gu clan. Just a few words. Dong Wushang's body shook. He rushed back like a whirlwind. "Wushang, who is it?" Dong Wulei looked at Dong Wushang. "I don't know." Dong Wushang mounted his horse. "Big brother, something happened to the Gu clan. I have to go first. You lead the army and speed up." His voice hadn't faded when he clamped his legs on the horse's belly. The horse neighed and rushed out. Dong Wulei reacted instantly. He reached out and pulled the king-level expert down from the horse's back. He patted the horses but with his right hand, and another horse rushed out. "Bring another horse!" "Okay." Dong Wushang's voice was already very far away. "Speed up!" Dong Wulei took a deep breath. He looked at his younger brother's departing figure and waved his hand. The army also quickened their pace. The Gu clan and the Dong clan were now in an alliance. If the Ao clan took over the Gu clan, it would be very bad. Mo clan. Mo Tianji walked into the study. "The latest news is that the Dong clan brothers have reconciled." Dong Wushang returned to the clan safe and sound. The Black Devil returned without success. Mo Tianji's voice clearly relaxed. King of Helchu had been asking for news every day for the past few days. Mo Tianji had a nervous reflex. His heart jumped when he saw King of Helchu. Chu Yang's face relaxed. He let out a long breath. He knew that Dong Wushang had finally overcome the first obstacle in his life. Psychological obstacle. Among the brothers, Dong Wushang was the one with the biggest crisis. The Black Devil was famous for being strange and vicious. There was also Dong Wulei, who had ulterior motives. Dong Wushang was an emotional person. He was heroic and unparalleled. Such a person wouldn't be easily hurt. But if he was hurt by his family, he would never be able to turn over a new leaf. In his previous life, Dong Wushang had cultivated Merciless Saber. Although Merciless Blade was ruthless, it still went to the extreme. In his previous life, their relationship had deteriorated until many years later, when the two brothers finally fought. At that time, things were already out of control. But in this life, things were finally better. "I'm going all out." It could be seen that it wasn't a bad thing to do some things in advance. "Are you finally relieved?" Mo Tianji finally dared to sit down in front of King of Helchu. King of Helchu would come to the study room every morning to wait for news. Mo Tianji would feel restless whenever King of Helchu arrived. Originally, this study was Mo Tianji's favorite place to stay. It gave him a wonderful feeling of strategizing and controlling the whole world. However, Mo Tianji felt tormented sitting next to King of Helchu ever since King of Helchu had taken over his place. This guy was like a bomb that could explode at any time. This caused the master of calculation and manipulation, who caused the entire three heavens to tremble in fear, to become restless, as if there was a sore growing under his butt. Now, he could finally sit down peacefully. "What do you mean you're finally relieved?" Chu Yang rolled his eyes. Then, he sprawled out on the armchair and said, "I've never been worried, okay? You're the only one who's worrying about other people's business." Mo Tianji almost spat out his saliva. His finger trembled as he pointed at Chu Yang. Do you have a conscience to say these words? Let's talk business." Chu Yang lazily picked his ear. "You can go out if there's nothing else." "I'm going to sleep." Mo Tianji was furious. "Is this my home or your home? Get up!" "Of course, there's something important," Mo Tianji said sullenly. "Otherwise, do you think I'm here to see your stinky face?" "The first thing is that the Dong brothers are leading people to the Gu clan. It seems that they're coming here after meeting up with the Gu clan," Mo Tianji said. "Oh." Chu Yang closed his eyes. Mo Tianji clenched his teeth. "The second thing is that Ao clans Ao Feng Yun and Ao Qing Yun are suppressing the Gu clan." "Oh." Chu Yang's eyebrows didn't move. "You're not worried?" Mo Tianji was surprised. "Are you worried?" Chu Yang asked back. "I'm also not worried." Mo Tianji forced a smile. "I've underestimated King of Helchu's wisdom. I reckon that King of Helchu might as well fart if he were to hear this. He might even cover his nose if someone farted. Ao clan might dare to assassinate Gu Du Xing. But that genius wouldn't dare to brazenly exterminate the Gu clan in front of so many people even if he was a fool. Gu Du Xing isn't just a single person. He has the Gu clan, Dong clan, Luo clan, Mo clan, Xia clan, and Ji clan behind him. There's also the Heavenly Armament Pavilion that's giving everyone a headache. AO clan only has AO Qing Yun and AO Feng Yun. So, they don't have the guts to stir up such a hornet's nest. Moreover, it's at such a sensitive time. They're not forcing them too hard. So, they'll just treat it as a farce. But I reckon that these two won't be able to return to the AO clan if they force them too hard, Chu Yang lazily said. In addition, they'd better withdraw quickly. Dong Wushang is rushing over there right now. These two geniuses will still be there when Dong Wushang arrives at Gu Duxing's place. So, these two geniuses of the AO clan don't have the slightest hope of survival. The only result is that they'll become two piles of dung. Chu Yang concluded. Could it be that Gu Duxing dares to kill them? Mo Tianji glared. Is it strange to kill them? Chu Yang looked at Mo Tianji in astonishment. Master of calculation and manipulation, can't someone from the AO clan die? Let's not talk about killing these two geniuses in the current situation of the Jianghu. Would the AO clan dare to fart even if I killed all of them? If they dare to fart, I'll catch a pack of male wolves and feed them aphrodisiac. Then I'll strip AO Xia Yun naked and throw him inside. Then I'll call all the big clans of the upper three heavens to visit. Mo Tianji quivered and shivered. You're so vicious. He sighed and said, Speaking of which, we have a problem here. You shouldn't have saved AO Xia Yun. Wouldn't it have been better if he had died? The reason why the AO clan let them out was because of AO Xia Yun's death. They wanted them to come out and perform meritorious deeds. They also wanted to choose a successor to replace AO Xia Yun for revenge. Their target was the Black Devil and the others. There's no doubt about this. But they just started to act when they received news that AO Xia Yun wasn't dead. Mo Tianji sighed. Isn't that crazy? Since AO Xia Yun isn't dead, it means that they don't have a chance. Since they don't have a chance, but they're in a place where they have a chance. How can they not do something earth-shattering? Surpass AO Xia Yun? What kind of big thing can be important? It's just unifying the Jianghu. Or finding a few young experts for the AO clan who can reach the monarch level and saint level to increase the chances of the AO clan entering the upper three heavens. Only then can they replace AO Xia Yun, right? At this time, your Heavenly Armament Pavilion came out of nowhere. Every one of you is a genius with a bright future. You tell me, if they don't make a move on you, who else can they make a move on? Mo Tianji got angry as he spoke. You bastard! You're a shit-stirrer. What do you mean by your Heavenly Armament Pavilion? Chu Zhang said unhappily. It should be our Heavenly Armament Pavilion. Our Heavenly Armament Pavilion? Mo Tianji was shocked. Yes, I declare that you, Mo Tianji, are the military counselor of our Heavenly Armament Pavilion from today onwards. Chu Yang said proudly. I won't do it. Mo Tianji said angrily. He almost vomited blood. How did he become a subordinate in the blink of an eye? Objection overruled. Minister Chu said majestically. I declare that your application is approved. Mo Tianji was so angry that he laughed. He was just talking about his faults when this guy started to pester him endlessly. Let's talk about these things first. Mo Tianji said angrily. What's the use of saying these things? Chu Yang rolled his eyes. The problem now is that these things have already happened. What we're discussing now is how to solve it, and how to deal with it. What's the use of saying these things besides making me feel uncomfortable? Mo Tianji was startled. He was used to finding out the cause and effect of everything. Hearing Chu Yang say this, he suddenly remembered that it might be useful to find out the cause of other things, but this matter was indeed useless. As for how to deal with it, I've already planned it out. Mo Tianji snorted and said, I'm just waiting for Gu Duxing to return home and Dong Wushang's matter to be over. Now I'm basically done with my preparations. Oh? What about Luo Kudi and GMO? Chu Yang asked. Those two are not important. Mo Tianji said. They'll follow you. Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said angrily. But Luo Kudi is missing. He hasn't been found yet. He'll be fine, Mo Tianji said. Luo Kuwu doesn't see him as a competitor. No matter how high his cultivation is, he won't kill his brothers. What are you afraid of? Do you think that someone like Luo Kudi can be the clan master? Do you want him to squat on the clan master's seat and whine every day? Chu Yang was dumbfounded. He was stupefied. And GMO. That guy can't even escape. Before the G-clan master's seat is passed down, he won't go back. What's the use of looking for him? Mo Tianji snorted. That lecher, I don't know if he's crawled out of his wife's belly yet. These words are very reasonable. Minister Chu rubbed his chin as he muttered to himself. He felt that Mo Tianji's words were very reasonable. Actually, I think that Huyan Aobo would be a perfect match for Dong Wushang or Li Xiong Tuesday. Both of them are big and strong. I didn't expect that she would take a fancy to GMO. It's really... Mo Tianji racked his brains and thought for a while. Then, he shook his head and said, chopsticks with toothpicks, celery with bean sprouts. And this bean sprouts is a man. The plan had been completed. Everything had been arranged properly. So, Mo Tianji could not help but become gossipy as he relaxed. Chopsticks with toothpicks, celery with bean sprouts? Hearing these words, Chu Yang immediately choked and coughed repeatedly. To be continued. Chapter 637. Then, Mo Tianji began to issue orders one by one. Countless invisible falcons flew out one after another like bamboo shoots after the rain. Block the trade routes. Block the waterways. Block the mines. Block. Mo Tianji had formulated different countermeasures for the first 3 areas of each clan, and each clan's strength. Every one of them was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Even Chu Yang, who was watching from the sidelines, felt somewhat alarmed. Mo Tianji would shout every time he finished writing. Someone come in. Then, someone would come in and take the order. Then, he would go out and release the 5 elements falcons according to Mo Tianji's instructions. Mo Tianji had sent more than 40 orders to the Gu clan, Xia clan, Dong clan, and other allied clans within 2 hours. Moreover, the small clans that depended on these allied clans for survival. Then, it was the Mo clan's own arrangement. Mo Tianji had casually made arrangements. He had issued 10 orders within an hour. Each of them was aimed at the vital points. Moreover, they were ordinary means plus abnormal means. They included vicious means, despicable means, shameless means. In short, Mo Tianji was unscrupulous this time. He was unscrupulous. He was unscrupulous. He was determined to ravage the enemy clans physically. He was determined to rape the enemy clans spiritually. He was determined to rape the enemy clans financially. He was determined to rape the enemy clans morally. He was determined to make the enemy clans impregnate, and then miscarry them. He was using vicious, despicable, shameless, wretched, upper-class and low-class methods. And he was using them in the name of righteousness. This was simply too awesome. It was awesome to the point of infinity. Finally, Mo Tianji had written a declaration to the world. It was as follows. I respectfully inform the people of Jianghu of the 3 heavens. Today, the wind and clouds have changed strangely. Bloody rain and foul wind have emerged in an endless stream. First, dozens of clans have been exterminated. Their young daughters have gone missing. Then, countless young beggars have gone missing. My Mo clan, Xia clan, Dong clan, Ji clan, and Gu clan have joined forces to investigate. And we have finally found something. It was the Meng clan's evil plan. They wanted to practice evil techniques and dominate Jianghu. But the Meng clan was suddenly exterminated when the investigation was nearing its end. And the culprits turned out to be the Meng clan's allies, several big clans. The more he tried to cover it up, the more conspicuous it was. The Black Devil clan, the Tu clan, the O clan, the Tian clan, and the other clans had already obtained the cultivation method of the Meng clan. Moreover, they had slaughtered the Meng clan. These clans would probably ravage the entire world within a few years given their financial and material resources and manpower. His ambition was clear as day. Even if all the powers of the three heavens combined, they still wouldn't be able to contend against him. Evil and poisonous arts brought disaster to the world. There was no need to hide the great danger. We are all carefree and happy Jianghu people, how can we be slaves? Here, we will fight to the death to protect the laws of the martial world. The hot blood of martial artists. Martial artists of our generation would rather die standing than live kneeling. It was better to be a broken piece of jade than an intact tile. On the 10th day of the 10th month, by the Lake of Despair, there would be a battle to the death. Let's see who would be the one to die. Amo Tianji finally finished writing. He blew on the ink and said with a smile, "This can only be done after the letter of challenge is sent out, and the other party accepts it." There was no hurry. However, this duke is angry today, so I'll use this mood to write and prepare. Chu Yang's hair stood on end. Amo Tianji was really, Chu Yang was speechless. Amo Tianji first launched an attack on those clans. Moreover, it was an all-around attack. Then, when the other party couldn't bear it anymore, he sent out the letter of challenge. At that time, those clans would have been furious and would have fought without hesitation. Then, they would have realized that the moment they agreed, Amo Tianji had already sent out a declaration for the entire three heavens. Ring after ring, interlocking. Then, they would pounce on the enemy clans like a storm. As long as we can hold on until the final battle, we will win. Amo Tianji smiled and said, "At that time, even if the upper three heavens send reinforcements, it would be useless. Lake of Despair?" Chu Zhang was suddenly moved and exclaimed, "Lake of Despair, wasn't that where the fourth fragment of the Calamity Sword was located? Amo Tianji actually chose to fight there?" Amo Tianji finally finished his arrangements. He let out a long sigh and pondered. Apparently, he had gone through his plan in his mind. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he said, "Brother Chu, do you have any suggestions for my arrangements?" "No," Chu Zhang said sincerely. "Your arrangements this time are perfect." It was indeed very beautiful. In the past, Amo Tianji's arrangements tended to neglect one thing: human nature. But now, Amo Tianji made such arrangements based on the life experiences and personalities of the leaders of the clans. It could be said that every move not only attacked the lifelines of the clans, but also the weaknesses of the leaders of the clans. In fact, Amo Tianji had even made such arrangements for each and every merchant. Every move was perfect and impeccable. "Brother Amo, you are gradually becoming more mature," Chu Yang said quietly. Yes, from the looks of this plan, it was completely the work of the master of calculation and manipulation from his previous life. "Brother Chu, you have contributed greatly to this." Amo Tianji smiled and said, "A few days ago, you told me that I didn't pay attention to human nature when making plans. This reminded me. In the past, when I made plans, I only considered the final benefits and strength of the clans, or schemes. In short, I didn't consider human nature. You don't know that these days I have been thinking about human nature all night long." He sent out a pensive look. Chu Yang also became serious. This topic was very vague, but it was the key to Amo Tianji's transformation. Later, I finally figured it out. Human nature is the weakness of a person's character. Amo Tianji smiled and said, "No matter if it is a good person or a bad person, there is a weakness in their character. And this weakness is formed when they are young. So, after investigating a person and understanding their life experiences, combined with their current behavior, it is easy to find the weakness of their character." Chu Yang was dumbfounded. "Fuck, what is this saying? Human nature is the weakness of a person's character? This is the first time I have heard of such a theory. It is too fucking creative. So, I am making plans now to deliberately target this point. I almost investigated the life of every person we are going to deal with and analyze them. Then, I found their human nature." Amo Tianji was a little proud. "Then, I found out that the success rate of such a plan is 100%. Brother Chu, you are really a good teacher and helpful friend. Your words have awakened me. To be continued. Chapter 638. Chu Yang was speechless. Human nature is not human nature. I asked you to study human nature, but you took a different path and walked out on a different path. I know what you want to say. What you want to say is human nature. Emo Tianji waved his hand and said seriously, I have also thought about it. There is nothing to study about human nature. There are only 4 words: the weak are prey to the strong. It may be cruel for me to say this, but the truth is like this. There are good people in this generation, but good people want to live well. Even if they do not want to hurt anyone, as long as they live, they will hurt others. To survive, you need to compete. Martial artists are like this. Poor people are like this. There will always be people who do well and people who do not. The good person is a good person. He did not hurt others. But the boss will definitely keep him and drive away the unsuitable one. So because of the existence of this good person, that person will be hurt. We are used to living in this kind of environment every day. So we do not think much of it. But in reality, survival of the fittest is around us. It happens every moment. It is always changing. Everyone is stepping on others to get to the top. Even if he is only in charge of slaughtering pigs, he can only gain a stable foothold after defeating others. It does not matter if he wins with integrity, conscience, or morals. But this victory is hurting others. Emo Tianji let out a deep breath. This is human nature. No matter how good a person is, the weak are prey to the strong. No matter how bad a person is, it is still the same. This is human nature. When a general succeeds, bones fill the mountain. When a person becomes famous, tens of thousands of people lose their voice. Even poor people step on piles of bones. What they eat is also the fruit of victory. Others are not good. Actually, it is not a reason for you to hurt them. But even if you do not want to hurt them, you will still hurt them. As long as there are people, there will be hurt. It has been the same since ancient times. So there is no need to talk about human nature. It is enough to see through it. Chu Yang pondered and silently digested Mo Tianji's words. He slowly nodded. Maybe you are a little extreme, but I have to admit that there is some truth in it. Yes, this is the difference between you and me. Mo Tianji looked at Chu Yang somewhat enviously. You may be cruel and merciless, but you see the beautiful side of human nature. When I look at human nature, I only see the evil side. Therefore, Chu Yang, I won't have any doubts if someone kills you one day. But for me, Mo Tianji, no one can kill me unless they use absolute violence for no reason. This is my fortune, but also your lack. But isn't this also my misfortune? Rather, it's your fortune. Mo Tianji's voice was very heavy. Chu Yang's face also became heavy. If a person only thought about the dark side of a problem, then there would be no joy in life. However, Mo Tianji was clearly enjoying himself in this realm. I like to scheme. I like to play with people in the palm of my hand. I like to be in control. I like to force the law of the jungle on others. Mo Tianji laughed in self-mockery. So when you mentioned human nature, I thought of human nature. Because human nature had no weaknesses, but human nature had flaws. And this flaw would be my greatest weapon to defeat him. For example, if I wanted to deal with you, Chu Yang, I would start from the lower 3 heavens. I wouldn't fight you to the death in the lower 3 heavens. To deal with you, I would need to destroy the emotions in your heart. Chu Yang, you may be called King of Hell Chu, but you are a sentimental person. Without emotions, you will definitely die. This is your greatest weakness, but also your greatest strength. Mo Tianji sighed deeply. Chu Yang was shocked. That's right. In his previous life, wasn't he defeated just like that? The destruction of Beyond the Heavens sect made me have no other thoughts besides revenge. Therefore, I only thought of revenge. Therefore, in the land of hatred, I focused on the emotionless sword Dao, but I hurt Qing Wu. When Qingwu died, his life would also be bleak from then on. I thought that I had gotten rid of my inner demons, but I didn't expect that I had also lost my heart. Without a heart, where would the inner demons come from? Therefore, after Qingwu's death, I couldn't make any progress. Mo Tianji's assessment of me was very accurate. Therefore, I care so much about the life and death of Dong Wushang and the others. Mo Tianji continued. Because I know that if they die, you will go crazy. If you go crazy, we will be finished. Mo Tianji smiled bitterly. After going in such a big circle, everyone is a key figure. Perhaps this is your path. Chu Yang said slowly with the tone of an experienced person. Mo Tianji was Mo Tianji after all. In the end, he still walked the path of the master of calculation and manipulation from his previous life. At this moment, he had transformed into a person who would collect information on anyone he met at all costs. Then, he would analyze their character, weaknesses, and habits. From there, he would formulate countermeasures. He could even understand a person. After understanding a person's first sentence, he could know what the person was going to say next and whether there would be a change in thinking. What place or scenery could affect a person's state of mind? What words could make a person angry in an instant? What words could make a person calm down immediately? This was an amazing person, but also a pitiful person. This was because he spent his life scheming against others. After scheming and calculating, he lost the joy of his life. The plan is set. Today is the 17th of the month. On the 10th of October, we will fight at the Lake of Despair. Although time is tight, we still have time. We still have 3 days of free time. Mo Tianji smiled and said, What do you plan to do in these 3 days? I want to go to Qingwu's courtyard to take a look. Chu Yang said calmly. Mo Tianji was stunned. A complicated look appeared in his eyes as he said, I'll go with you. He smiled and said, Brother Chu, I'm not afraid that you will laugh at me. During this period of time, I feel guilty. I don't dare to go to my little sister's courtyard by myself. Every time I walk to the door, I think I can hear her crying. Sigh, my poor little sister. Chu Yang was speechless. He could only pat his shoulder to comfort him. The two walked together and arrived at Mo Qingwu's courtyard. The courtyard was clean. It was obvious that someone cleaned it every day. When they reached the door, Mo Tianji stopped. Intentionally or not, he let Chu Yang walk in front. It seemed that he didn't dare to be the first to open Mo Qingwu's door. With a creak, Chu Yang pushed the door open. A faint and pleasant fragrance wafted out from inside. This is Qingwu's scent. Chu Yang was touched. This is my little sister's scent. Mo Tianji was excited. The two of them raised their noses at the same time and took a deep breath. Then they closed their eyes. Immediately, they noticed each other's actions. They immediately opened their eyes and glared at each other. What are you smelling? Is there something wrong with your nose? What are you smelling? Is there something wrong with your nose? The two of them questioned each other at the same time. At this moment, the two of them were protecting their sovereignty. What can you do about it? What can you do about it? They spoke at the same time again. Humph. Humph. After 2 angry snorts, the 2 men almost squeezed each other and rushed into the room at the same time. This beast. Chu Yang gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart. This beast. Mo Tianji gritted his teeth and cursed in his heart. There was a thin layer of dust on the table. It was enough to show that no one had entered this room since Mo Qingwu left. The bed was neatly folded. There was a small pillow on the pink quilt. On the pillow, there was a tattered scabbard. It was all alone. Seeing this tattered scabbard, the two of them felt sad at the same time. Mo Qingwu had hugged this thing during the most difficult time of her life. Mo Qingwu at that time. Just thinking about it made their hearts ache. Chu Yang only felt his eyes heat up. He turned his head and looked at Mo Tianji fiercely as if he wanted to eat him. This time, Mo Tianji didn't have the courage to look him in the eyes. He lowered his head in shame. Look at what you've done. Minister Chu stomped his feet and scolded with heartache. Mo Tianji sighed sadly. Chu Yang stepped forward and gently picked up the scabbard from the pillow. The scabbard seemed as light as nothing. It didn't seem to have changed at all. However, Chu Yang still felt the difference. The scabbard was obviously much cleaner than when he gave it to Mo Qingwu. In addition, the color of some places was darker. An image appeared in front of him. Mo Qingwu hugged the scabbard pitifully, her face pressed against the scabbard. She sat in front of the door and looked forward to it. Brother Chu Yang, I miss you so much. Brother Chu Yang, every time I hug the scabbard I feel that you will come to pick me up soon. Chu Yang sighed deeply. His heart ached. Mo Tianji stepped forward. Just as he was about to check, Chu Yang glared and raised the scabbard. Mo Tianji stared at him for a long time and finally retreated. Chu Yang gently lifted the quilt. A delicate fragrance wafted out. He couldn't help but sniffle. Behind him, Mo Tianji's face was ferocious. He almost wanted to kick this shameless person out. Then, Chu Yang sat on the edge of the bed and didn't move. Mo Tianji touched his nose. Finally, he walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. Naturally, Minister Chu rolled his eyes. However, the ghost master didn't care. He coughed twice and sat down calmly. Then, he touched left and right. In the next moment, the two of them touched the bottom of the quilt at the same time. They immediately realized that there was a texture that didn't belong to the quilt. There was also a rustling sound. Then, the two of them started to fight fiercely. Under the quilt, there were obviously some scraps of paper. Mo Qingwu must have written something and hidden it here. The two of them came here for this. At that time, Mo Qingwu must have had a lot of feelings in her heart. However, she had no one to talk to. She could only write something and hide it. But where could a little girl hide it? In the eyes of people like Chu Yang and Mo Tianji, it was naturally easy for them to find it. Today, I went to the hospital for a checkup. I did a CT scan and everything. If you don't go to the hospital, you won't know how difficult it is to see a doctor. I can bet that there are more people in the hospital than in any market. I went there at 8:30. I queued up until 8:50. She went to the orthopedics department and waited in line until 10:30. She was then given a checkup. She waited in line at the entrance of the CT department until 10:30 before she was called in. Lie on that thing that countless people have laid on, stretch and retract in and out, up and down, and when done, take the film 3 hours later. He decided to take a nap on the recliner in the hospital. At 2:30 in the afternoon, he finally queued up to take out the film. Below are the results of the examination. Perhaps some of the brothers and sisters will not understand, so I will add brackets to explain. The waist is bulging and loose. This seems to mean that it has been compressed. It means that it was originally round, but now it is flat. Disc herniation, early stage, not serious. Deep lumbar muscle strain, meaning the part of the strain is not on the surface. Low lumbar muscle strain, degree of strain. Deep cervical spine strain, same as above. Early stage of curvature of the spine, that is, a little deformed, originally straight, but the middle part begins to curve outwards. The initial period is over, but not yet due. Note that this is not the initial period of school. Adhesive scapulohumeral periarthritis, severe strain of the muscles around the left shoulder, muscle adhesion, severe strain of the left shoulder directly. I have to reflect on this point. This has nothing to do with writing. In the past, I was tired of carrying sacks and doing farm work. I worked as a stevedore at the train station. I once personally contracted 20 mu of land. That's basically the above. Doctor's advice: 1. It's best not to sit. Keep moving. Don't keep moving for more than half an hour. I roll my eyes at the sky. Is this possible? Then how am I going to write? If I don't write, how am I going to make money? If I don't make money, the doctors won't let me eat. 2. I recommend systematic treatment. Even massage and electrotherapy should be done in the hospital. After a hard struggle, I tentatively decided on 10 days. Go every morning. 3. It's best not to smoke. What does this have to do with smoking? Ignore. 4. Pay attention to your diet. Make sure your work and rest is normal. Did you see that? 3 decisions. 5. Pay attention to yourself. Don't exercise intensely, but don't exercise intermittently. Is there something wrong with this sentence? I just did a health checkup half a month ago. There were no problems with blood pressure, blood sugar, and blood lipids. I was smug for a long time. I didn't expect that. This had nothing to do with that. If it wasn't for the numbness in my left hand when I was writing, and slowly the numbness in my upper body, I might have continued writing like this. But now, I really don't dare to. Writing this paragraph and delaying everyone's enjoyment of reading, I'm guilty. So I went out for a walk, exercised, and came back to write chapters. Above. Double the period. My future was great. Then this happened. Should I cry? To be continued. Chapter 639. Let go! Chu Yang glared at him fiercely. Let go! Mo Tianji was furious. Let go! This is what Little Wu wrote for me. Chu Yang really wanted to punch this guy in the nose. Bullshit! I can't read the letter written by my little sister. How can an outsider like you read it? Mo Tianji refused to budge. After a long time, the two finally compromised. Half each? Mo Tianji's face twisted when he saw the first half of the letter. Stinky's second brother! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! Mo Tianji's face turned pale. He sighed and turned over the letter. The second one. Stinky's second brother Mo Tianji, I hate you! Mo Tianji rubbed his temples and looked at the third one. Brother Chu Yang, I miss you so much. When will you come to pick me up? Mo Tianji's face turned black. The fourth one. Brother Chu Yang, I miss you so much. I cried again today. The more I miss you, the sadder I feel. The fifth one. Brother Chu Yang, come quickly. They bullied me. Second brother also bullied me. Little Wu is dying, I miss you. Brother Chu Yang, I miss you. Mo Tianji quickly flipped through the whole stack. There were more than 100 letters. Besides cursing him, she was also thinking of Chu Yang. Perhaps, in Mo Qingwu's heart, he was the one who hurt her the most. After all, she had a premonition of other people's hurt. She was prepared for it. Only he was caught off guard. But I really did it for your own good. Mo Tianji's heart felt like it was being stabbed. His hands trembled. King Chu Yang! I will kill you! Mo Tianji finally shouted with grief and indignation. He looked at the last 3 letters. One of them said, Brother Chu Yang, if you come, I will be your wife, okay? The second one. Brother Chu Yang, when I grow up, I will be your wife, okay? The third one. Brother Chu Yang, you said that when I grow up, you will marry me. I am looking forward to it. These 2 pieces of paper were at the end, and they were crumpled. It seemed that a certain lowly felt embarrassed after writing them, so she secretly stuffed them at the bottom. Mo Tianji exploded. He looked at Chu Yang with infinite grief and indignation. You beast! You actually abducted my little sister's pure heart! At the side, Chu Yang was heartbroken. As he read and read, he looked at the lines of Mo Qingwu's handwriting. It was young and tender but proper. It was as if he could see how miserable Mo Qingwu was at that time. The more Mo Qingwu thought about him, the more upset she was at that time. Otherwise, how could a 10-year-old girl come up with so many strange ideas? Minister Chu's heart ached when he saw these Lolita girls pouring out their feelings one after another. At the same time, he was also unable to restrain his anger. He didn't expect that Mo Tianji would actually take the initiative to launch an attack. It was as if he had thrown a grenade into a pile of explosive barrels. King Chu Yanhui instantly exploded. Bastard! This is all your family's fault for mistreating Xiao Wu. Otherwise, why would he think of me like this? Who am I? At most, I only stayed with her for a little more than a month. What about you? You have no sense of shame at all. Filth flows back to the bottom. Your Mo clan is the worst. You actually turned around and accused me of abducting your sister? You should treat her better. Do you think I abducted her? King Chu Yanhui could be considered valiant. He could be considered the first person in history to fight back so righteously after abducting someone else's sister. Mo Tianji fumed. You really admitted that you abducted my sister? He suddenly narrowed his eyes. What you said at that time, it can't be true, right? Chu Yang was stunned. He immediately reacted and said resentfully, Didn't you say it before? By the time your sister grows up, I will have become an old gang. But looking at this sign, it is very possible. Mo Tianji circled around the room a few times. He was extremely distressed. When Xiao Wu was at her most helpless, only you were there to comfort her. After a long time, although she was young, her heart had a deep-rooted dependence on you. This kind of dependence could easily turn into love after she grew up. He grabbed his hair and sighed. If you let her stay with you and see her often, I'm afraid she can only let nature take its course. But when she was suffering the most, you were the one she missed. And when she was at her most helpless, you saved her. This made her even more dependent on you. Not long after you saved her, she was taken away by a supreme martial artist. In this way, the misunderstanding between her and her family was not cleared up before she left. The only good person in her heart was you. After that, she didn't see you for many years. How could she not miss you? When she grows up to 14 or 15 years old, she will have her first awakening of love. In this kind of yearning, she will be able to turn this kind of feeling into an unforgettable love. This is bad. This is really bad. Mo Tianji grabbed his hair and spun it around like a donkey tied to a mill. Chu Yang drew a breath of cold air. Then, his heart bloomed with joy. Mo Tianji was right. If he and Mo Qingwu continued to stay like this, Mo Qingwu would definitely smoothly transition into a sibling relationship. Then, he would be really dumbfounded, but now… Humph, although he was very reluctant to let her be taken away by a supreme martial artist, it seemed that everything could be done naturally. Mo Tianji's understanding of Mo Qingwu was unparalleled in the world. His grasp of human nature and the evolution of emotions was even more unparalleled in the world. Since he said so, there was definitely such a possibility. Minister Chu was overjoyed. He smiled from ear to ear. But on the surface, he was dumbfounded and asked, No way? Brother Mo, this is a little too dangerous for you to listen to. How can a little girl have so many twists and turns? Mo Tianji was furious. He said exasperatedly, Others may not have, but Xiao Wu definitely has. What should we do? Minister Chu said blankly. What should we do? You've gotten yourself into big trouble. You are asking me what to do? What if little sister comes back and grows up to love you? King of Hell Chu, you will die. Mo Tianji clenched his teeth. His usual calmness was nowhere to be seen. He pointed at King of Hell Chu's nose and scolded him. The saliva in his mouth sprayed on King of Hell Chu's face. You're right. Minister Chu was deeply worried. I'm 18 years old this year. I'm afraid that an average person would be that old by now. I can't possibly wait for a little girl for who knows how many years. Otherwise, I would become an old man. Huh? Mo Tianji was startled. He tilted his head and looked at Chu Yang. Brother Mo, you are right to remind me. Minister Chu said firmly. I should also think about marriage. What if Xiao Wu is really like what you said? That would be terrible. What? Mo Tianji jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He thought in the blink of an eye, if little sister comes back and finds out that her beloved brother Chu Yang is already married, so many years of waiting will be in vain. Wouldn't she be heartbroken? That little girl is very stubborn. What if… Brother Mo, Chu Yang said in a sorrowful manner, I understand how you feel. I also understand that this matter is very important. So, you don't have to worry. I will solve this personal problem as soon as possible. You are right. Xiao Wu is too young. I can't afford to delay. Mo Tianji was dumbfounded. He stared blankly. I said that I didn't do anything during this time. But I did have a lot of beautiful girls in these 3 days. I will try to develop. Chu Yang's eyes revealed the color of peach blossoms. He said in a very conceited manner, Brother Mo, it shouldn't be difficult to find a wife with my current fame and reputation. Find a wife and get married? You dare? Mo Tianji was flustered and exasperated. He jumped up and down. Motherfucker. You want to run away after stirring up trouble? Let me tell you, King of Hell Chu. Don't think about getting married before Xiao Wu comes back. You find one, and I will kill one for you. You find two, and I will kill two for you. Can you be reasonable? Minister Chu cried out in grievance. I joked about waiting for your sister earlier. Wasn't I forced by your words? Moreover, you didn't agree. If your sister likes me, you will kill me. But now, you actually want to interfere with my decision to find a wife? You are interfering too much, right? Do you think you are my father? Mo Tianji's face turned red. He fiercely argued. Anyway, you can't. What if my sister really falls in love with you? If you get married, won't my sister be sad? Mo Tianji was already unreasonable. He was pestering endlessly. Chu Yang spread out his hands. I have never seen someone as difficult to please as you. Tell me, what should I do? Let me hear it. You want me to keep my body useful so that I can woo your sister? You dare! Mo Tianji roared. Then isn't it? Minister Chu spread out his hands. Then I will quickly find a wife and get married. Is that wrong? You dare! Mo Tianji roared again. Fuck! Minister Chu was angry. What do you want to do? Are you fucking crazy? Mo Tianji was very conflicted. He didn't want to let his sister marry this beast, but he also didn't want his sister to be sad. He knew Mo Qingwu's temper. If she came back and found out that Chu Yang was married, she would certainly collapse. It wouldn't be strange if something happened to her because of this. Anyway, you are not allowed to woo my sister. Moreover, you are not allowed to get married before my sister comes back. Mo Tianji retorted. Old Hui, you really don't want to serve me. Minister Chu turned around and walked away, cursing along the way. Mother told me not to get married. She told me to wait for a little girl. When she came back, I didn't even want to woo her. Mother told me that I am already 18 years old. I don't know how many more years I will have to wait. It would be useless even if I get married, Brother Chu, Brother Chu. Mo Tianji hurriedly stopped him. He thought for a long time, and finally made a concession. He said in a low voice, Actually, I think that you being my sister's husband is also not bad. These words were said while gritting his teeth. It was clear that he was reluctant to part with his beloved. Moreover, he could go back on his words at any time. I don't care. Chu Yang raised his head. What do you want? Mo Tianji roared. I have already made the biggest concession. You made a concession? Okay, even if I accept it, let me ask you. What if your sister comes back and doesn't fall in love with me? You want me to wait for her, and wait for her? My youth, who will make up for it? I am in the prime of my life. I am a heroic and elegant young man. How many years will there be like this in my life? Mo Tianji, don't forget. Minister Chu spoke with conviction. You want me to make such a sacrifice without paying a price? Dream on. Happy face, I beg for votes. Chapter 640. Mo Tianji was tongue-tied. He was speechless. He knew that he was making things difficult for Chu Yang. His little sister's situation was not decided yet. So, it was unreasonable for him to not let him find a wife. But, even though it was not decided yet, he was more than 10% sure that it would develop in that direction. Was it okay for him to not prepare for his little sister? Brother Chu, you have to consider this carefully. After all, you also like Xiao Wu. You don't want Xiao Wu to be sad, right? Mo Tianji saw that Minister Chu was furious. So, he had no choice but to change his strategy. He tried to reason with him. He changed from being aggressive to trying to persuade him. Brother Mo, I like Xiao Wu very much. But you should know what kind of like I have. Chu Yang confided in him. Xiao Wu is smart and cute. She is pure and innocent. Who wouldn't like her? But this is completely different from what you think. Minister Chu clearly felt guilty when he said this. So, he couldn't help but sigh. What he liked and what Mo Tianji thought were naturally two different things. However, his kind of like was indeed not the kind of like that Mo Tianji thought in his heart. I know. Mo Tianji sighed. He continued to argue for his little sister's happiness. Brother Chu, you are only 18 years old. Even if you wait for 5 years, you will only be 20 years old. You can afford to wait. Brother Mo, Chu Yang said in a sorrowful manner. I understand how you feel. I also admit that you're a good elder brother. You've worried so much for your younger sister. You're really meticulous. It is Xiao Wu's greatest fortune to have a brother like you. Mo Tianji smiled warmly. He was obviously a little dizzy from Chu Yang's praise. She is my little sister. If I don't pamper her, who will pamper her? Chu Yang felt like vomiting in his heart. Then, he continued to say sincerely, Brother Mo, you and I are both men. You should know that we start to fall in love when we are 13 or 14 years old. I am 18 this year. Minister Chu sighed. His voice made people want to cry. If one only listened to his tone, it seemed as if he didn't say 18, but 80. And I, Chu Yang, am still a child. It wasn't that he was being pretentious. It was just that he couldn't stand the sight of such vulgar women. Besides, I'm a man with a heavy heart and a heavy heart. I don't want to be a womanizer. Minister Chu's voice was full of emotion. He was trying his best to express his moral integrity. Even though he was expressing his helplessness, he was clearly hinting, Mo Tianji, you've chosen me as your brother-in-law. You've found the right person. How could there be a man as outstanding as me in this world? If you don't hold on tight for your sister, then you're really blind. Mo Tianji grabbed Chu Yang's hand and said, Yes, I believe you. Sigh, that Miss Wu is such a great beauty with peerless talent. She also has deep feelings for you, Brother Chu. Yet, Brother Chu, you are so courteous and not the slightest bit flustered. He's a role model for our generation. Regarding Chu Yang's moral integrity in this aspect, Mo Tianji was absolutely trustworthy. It was no secret that the information that Mo Tianji collected about Chu Yang was the most detailed in the entire world. How could he not know that Chu Yang had never been involved in any scandals with any woman until now? As a man in troubled times, and a man with a high position and power, how many women could he not have? It could be said that as long as King of Hell Chu said, I want to marry a wife, then the Emperor of Iron Cloud Empire, Tai Butian, could even choose a concubine for him. Mo Tianji firmly believed in his own speculation. However, King of Hell Chu had kept his chastity. To be able to do this was simply unimaginable. He was a saint. If such a man was unreliable, what other man could be reliable? Thinking of this, Mo Tianji's desire to hold on to Chu Yang for his sister became more and more urgent. 18. Minister Chu said in frustration. It's time to find one, don't worry, Brother Chu. There's really no need to worry about this. Mo Tianji waved his hand. It's better to choose more. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. Brother Mo, you and I are both men. You should know, sometimes it's very uncomfortable to be impulsive. I've already poured cold water on my head dozens of times this year. Yes. Mo Tianji's face darkened and said, It's indeed uncomfortable. Thinking of the time when he was impulsive and did something to his own maid, he could not help but admire Minister Chu's ability to pour cold water on his head. A man who could do this was very rare. And if you really want me to wait for little Wu to grow up, then it'll take at least 4 or 5 years to get married, right? Chu Yang's face was somewhat distorted. Get married? Mo Tianji wanted to curse. My sister will only be 15 years old in 4 or 5 years, and you want to do it? However, thinking that he was the one asking for help, he could only swallow his anger and say with a hollow laugh, Brother Chu's calculation is really good. What will I do in these 4 or 5 years? Won't I suffocate to death? Chu Yang righteously looked at Mo Tianji. Let's not talk about other things. Brother Tianji, can you keep your chastity for 4 or 5 years? Mo Tianji was flabbergasted. Even though I haven't married yet, I already have several concubines. How can I be like you? Keep my chastity for 4 or 5 years? Motherfucker, wouldn't I be a cuckold then? But my heavenly armament pavilion is still in the period of development. It's surrounded by strong enemies and danger lurks everywhere. The future is uncertain. I really don't have time to think about love. Chu Yang changed the topic. Yes. Mo Tianji hurriedly said. A real man should put his career first. Even though everyone in our heavenly armament pavilion is a peerless genius, we lack a resourceful military advisor. Chu Yang sighed and said, Brother Tianji, I won't say anything else. You want me to keep my chastity until your sister comes back. That's fine, but I have a condition. Chu Yang had finally arrived at his position after circling around. He had finally begun to reveal his true intentions, and had started to fight with real swords and spears. Mo Tianji bitterly smiled. Motherfucker, does this little guy want me to sell myself as a slave? You will be the military advisor of my heavenly armament pavilion. We will call each other brothers and create great things together, Chu Yang righteously said. Of course, in return, I will try my best to restrain myself and wait for your sister to come back. If Xiao Wu is truly, deeply in love with me, then I will have no choice but to sacrifice myself to fulfill her wish. Minister Chu sighed as he finished speaking. It seemed as if he had made a great sacrifice for the sake of the Chu family. Mo Tianji's heart was filled with mixed feelings. This matter, how did it develop to this point? Not only do I have to sell myself to him, but even my sister has to be given to him. Moreover, the other party is so unwilling. It seems as if he is doing me a great favor. This guy is actually sacrificing himself to help my sister? Even though Mo Tianji was quick-witted and clever, he was still confused by Chu Yang's words. Mo Tianji smacked his lips. Then, he muttered to himself in a somewhat mysterious manner. But why do I feel that something is wrong when I listen to it? The meaning behind this is truly confusing. Brother Mo, you don't have to be embarrassed. Chu Yang sighed. I know that my heavenly armament pavilion is small and can't accommodate a great Buddha like you. Of course, if you have any objections, just pretend that I didn't say anything. He seemed to be relieved. I should quickly find a wife. In fact, now that I think about it, I am ashamed of the lower 3 heavens. Don't. Mo Tianji hurriedly stopped this guy from continuing. He gritted his teeth. Isn't it just being a military advisor? Moreover, it's a great cause for brothers. I, Mo Tianji, can't ask for anything more. How can I not agree? But I don't want you to force yourself, Chu Yang said hypocritically. I'm not forcing myself, Mo Tianji said angrily. But I don't want you to make a decision against your will. After all, if you are in a bad mood and don't work hard in the heavenly armament pavilion, I might as well cancel this agreement. After all, my youth can't be lost. Minister Chu continued to persuade. He beat around the bush to prevent future troubles. Am I, Mo Tianji, that kind of person? Mo Tianji was furious. But no buts. This matter is settled. Mo Tianji waved his hand domineeringly and made the final decision. But King of Hell Chu, if you don't wait for my sister, then I am worse than a beast. I will be struck by lightning. I will be pierced by 10,000 arrows. I will not be reincarnated after death. I will fall into hell forever. Chu Yang raised his hand and swore. This oath was earth-shattering. It made the hair of those who heard it stand on end. Moreover, Brother Mo has helped me. How can I take advantage of you and then not acknowledge it? Don't worry. I will try my best to cultivate my relationship with your sister. No matter what the result is at that time, I will accept it. Even if little Wu doesn't like me. I will, Chu Yang said with difficulty. And Mo Tianji was greatly moved. Such a vicious oath was enough to show how much Chu Yang valued him. He was willing to make such a big promise and sacrifice for his alliance. Although Mo Tianji was a scheming person, he couldn't help but feel a hot-blooded feeling of a gentleman would die for his bosom friend. Brother Chu, don't worry. I, Mo Tianji, am not an ungrateful person, Mo Tianji said solemnly. However, he was somewhat worried in his heart. Although Chu Yang had agreed, it was only because of him. It was only a condition of exchange. There was nothing to say about his little sister's side. After all, Chu Yang only had the kind of pure brotherly love for little Wu at present. And Mo Qing Wu's change was very easy. When the conditions were right, success would follow naturally. And Mo Tianji's yearning for her would turn into undying yearning. However, Chu Yang was an adult. For an adult to have feelings for a little girl, this was very difficult. Putting himself in Chu Yang's shoes, Mo Tianji felt that if he was in Chu Yang's shoes, he would feel very awkward and difficult to accept. Brother Chu, I know, this matter is really difficult for you, Mo Tianji said sincerely and apologetically. To be continued. Chapter 641. You're too kind. Minister Chu was overjoyed, but he smiled faintly and said, Brother Mo, you're too kind. Don't worry, I'll overcome this inner demon. Mo Tianji sighed. From the feelings for his sister to the feelings for his lover. The inner demon was indeed an inner demon. I'm really making things difficult for him, Chu Yang sighed on the outside, but he was proud of himself. Do I have this inner demon? Damn it! If I did, that would be weird. So, this matter is settled? Chu Yang asked. This matter is settled, Mo Tianji said. The two looked at each other, reached out and shook hands. Brother Chu, recruiting me into the Heavenly Armament Pavilion is something you've been planning for a long time, right? Mo Tianji smiled. Chu Yang smiled. But it's also consensual, isn't it? Brother Chu is so attentive to the Heavenly Armament Pavilion. It looks like you're preparing to lead the Heavenly Armament Pavilion into the upper three heavens? Mo Tianji's eyes were a little confused. Brother Chu's purpose of recruiting me should be because you're worried about Di Wuqing Rou and the Zhuge clan, right? Mo Tianji pondered. In other words, Brother Chu is preparing to be enemies with Di Wuqing Rou and the Zhuge clan. Mo Tianji deduced. But now, everything is not clear. You haven't even met the Zhuge clan, but you're sure that you're going to be enemies with them. Mo Tianji's eyes flashed. He leaned close to Chu Yang's ear and said softly, Brother Chu, you're the current master of Calamity Sword, right? Chu Yang's face changed. Haha, I didn't say anything. I don't know anything. Mo Tianji spread out his hands and smiled. The two looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Brother Mo, when did you start suspecting? Gu Du Xing and the others have improved by leaps and bounds since they followed you. That's the first reason. Why would Di Wuqing Rou give up such a good situation and fight with you? That's the second reason. After Di Wuqing Rou's army was defeated, I once went to the third heaven, provided by the world-defying stage heavens, to observe the celestial phenomena and observe the destiny of my Mo clan. However, I saw a gorgeous blood-colored destiny rushing up to the upper three heavens. Mo Tianji smiled. Don't forget that I once received the true teachings of World Controller Xiao Fengyan. Thirdly, I've seen Gu Duxing's sword and Dong Wushang's saber. Fourthly, Xiao Wu's injuries suddenly healed. Mo Tianji faintly smiled. Then, his voice became so faint that it couldn't be heard. I'm ignorant and inexperienced. But I know that there's a mysterious existence called Heavy Pill. Fifth, my original plan was to divide the world into 3 parts. But you exterminated the Meng clan first. Then, you exterminated the AO clan. Then, you deliberately instigated the internal strife of the AO clan. So, you made everything move in the direction of unification after the Great Chaos. You must know that the Sword Master's duty is to conquer. Amo Tianji smiled and said, So, Brother Chu, I would have joined the Heavenly Armament Pavilion even if you hadn't used Xiao Wu as a threat. Otherwise, why would I strongly advocate that you should be the leader of the Battle of the Upper Three Heavens? Don't tell me that I, Amo Tianji, can't be the leader? Since I can devise a strategy in a tent, can't I decide victory from 1,000 miles away? I know the severity of the matter. So, I've always kept these things in my heart. I didn't tell anyone about them. Amo Tianji always took the initiative to explain Chu Yang's sensitive doubts. He smiled and said, This may be the only chance for my Amo clan to rush into the upper three heavens. Chu Yang was speechless. He thought that he had taken advantage of Amo Tianji. But he didn't know who had fallen into the other's trap. Or it could be said that both of them had won. Because both of them had achieved their goals. Chu Yan had eliminated the biggest obstacle between him and Mo Qingwu. He had eliminated a huge crisis. Moreover, he had cleared the path for him and Mo Qingwu's future. The only thing that made him a little unhappy was that he had such an uncle by his side. He really didn't feel confident. Mo Tianji had also achieved his goals. First, he had made Chu Yang wait for his sister. Second, he had successfully obtained a ticket to enter the upper three heavens. Moreover, Chu Yang had forced it on him. Both of them heaved a sigh of relief. However, after Mo Tianji heaved a sigh of relief, he immediately became nervous again. Because he knew what kind of path he would embark on in the future, and what kind of enemies he would face. Compared to those enemies, the things that he had painstakingly arranged in the upper three heavens were like child's play. Compared to those enemies, the enemies he was facing now were no different from babies who were still learning to speak. Seeing Chu Yang frown, Mo Tianji smiled and said, You don't have to worry. I'm a little scheming and I like to play tricks. But there's one thing that I believe you can understand. I never play tricks on my own people. He smiled faintly and said, Of course, I'm not joking. Mo Tianji was right. What Chu Yang was most worried about now was Mo Tianji's scheming. GMO and the others were fine, but Du Xing and Dong Wushang were not people who liked to joke. They also hated it when others played tricks on them. Hearing Mo Tianji's words, they naturally felt relieved. I want to remind you that this is a path of death. The past sword masters have succeeded, but it doesn't mean that you will succeed. The pressure on this path will be unparalleled. Mo Tianji said softly. So, even if it's our brothers, it's inevitable that some of them will collapse from the pressure. So, on this path, it's necessary to joke and relax appropriately. Otherwise, if we continue to fight fiercely, we will explode from the pressure before the enemies are finished. I understand this point. Chu Yang nodded deeply. It was easier said than done. Right now, there was no need to talk about unifying the heavens. Chu Yang and the others were far from being comparable to any of the big clans. Their strength was not even 1,000th of the big clans. The pressure on this path was imaginable. There's no need to think too much. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Mo Tianji said slowly. If you think too much, you'll scare yourself to death. Brother Chu, I'll issue a challenge the day after tomorrow. We'll fight at the Lake of Despair. After issuing the challenge, we should receive a reply within a day. Then, I'll spread the challenge to the world. After that, we should set off. We'll meet before the snowy mountain range. We'll set off for the Lake of Despair together. All the clans in the three heavens should participate in this battle. So, this battle is very important. Let's conserve our energy for the next few days. We only have 3 days of free time. If you can increase your strength, you'd better make the most of it. The two of them discussed as they walked out of Mo Qingwu's courtyard. Moreover, I'm not joking with you about my younger sister's matter. Mo Tianji solemnly reminded him. Chu Yang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Now, he once again felt the feeling that he had when he was close friends with Motianji in his previous life. That feeling was that Motianji had everything under his control without leaving any room for error. Having someone like Motianji by his side was a fortunate thing, provided by the world-defying stage heavens, but sometimes it was also a sullen thing. Because no matter what it was, before you said it, he would already know, understand, and solve it. Talking to this guy was also boring. Because if he didn't want you to speak, he would say everything himself. Including the questions you wanted to ask, including your confusion, doubts, and so on. When he said a sentence, he would accurately predict what kind of response Ji Kang would give because of what he said. Then, he would start to explain. In his previous life, Chu Yang had experienced this countless times. He felt that he had chatted with Mo Tianji for an entire afternoon, but after everything was done, he would realize that he hadn't said a single word. It was all someone's one-man show. The second half of today's conversation was basically like this. Chu Yang didn't say a single word. Mo Tianji directly arranged everything and answered all the questions that Chu Yang didn't ask. Chu Yang sat in Mo Tianji's study for a long time before he realized this problem. He couldn't help but spit resentfully. Fuck. I knew it would be so frustrating when I'm old. And now, a certain little loli, who had made these two amazing talents talk about her, and had almost come to blows, was seriously practicing martial arts somewhere in the upper three heavens. Ning Tianye and Bulu Qing took Mo Qingwu back to the upper three heavens. They were still on the way when the two supreme martial artists had a headache. Masters, can I go and say goodbye to Brother Chu Yang again? The little girl's eyes flickered with tears. I miss him. The two supreme martial artists staggered. Miss him? How long has it been since they separated? And you want to say goodbye again? If you keep saying goodbye like this, I'm afraid you won't be able to reach the upper three heavens in your lifetime. It's okay if you don't say goodbye. Why don't you bring Brother Chu Yang here? The little girl's eyes flickered with longing. The two supreme martial artists were speechless. Yes, why am I so stupid? The little girl clapped her hands. Masters, aren't you worried about finding a disciple? Why don't you accept Brother Chu Yang as your disciple? This is a really good idea, Masters. Can we do it? The two supreme martial artists finally collapsed. Anyone would have collapsed after being annoyed for nearly 10,000 miles. Good disciple. It's not that we don't want to. It's just that your brother Chu Yang isn't simple. Ning Tianya explained with a bitter face. We don't dare to be his masters. If we accept him as our disciple, he may be blasted to pieces by heavenly lightning tomorrow. Brother Chu Yang is so powerful? The little girl was in high spirits. Well, if I'm not wrong, your brother Chu Yang will be the most powerful person in the heavens in the future. Bulu Qing said. Wow. The little girl's eyes lit up. Wow. 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 The little girl exclaimed. In other words, Brother Chu Yang will be more powerful than the two masters in the future? The two supreme martial artists rolled their eyes at the same time. Did we say that? Then, the two masters together can't beat Brother Chu Yang? And Mo Qingwu was in high spirits. The two supreme martial artists' faces darkened. Then why should I worship you as my masters? Can I learn from Brother Chu Yang? The little girl rolled her eyes and said angrily. Won't you mislead him? The little girl suddenly became bitter. Humph! Ning Tianya and Bulu Qing cried without tears. In the entire heavens for 10,000 years, someone had dared to say that the two supreme martial artists would mislead him. It seemed that someone had finally appeared today. Chapter 642. The two supreme martial artists had no choice but to explain the problem of misleading the younger brother first. Cough, cough. Your brother Chu Yang may be very powerful in the future, but he's nothing now. Ning Tianya explained gloomily. It'll take hundreds of years for him to grow up. It's still too early. Mo Qingwu snorted, but her face was still gloomy. Besides, since your brother Chu Yang will be so powerful in the future, You won't be able to catch up with him if you don't work hard. How can you be worthy of your brother Chu Yang if you can't catch up with him and can't be as good as him? Bulu Qing's words were more important in comparison. Moreover, they were straight to the point. Well, I'll work hard. Bulu Qing looked at Ning Tianya proudly. His meaning was, see, my method is still effective. Back at Ning Tianya's residence, Ning Tianya didn't have time to rest. He started to prepare to teach his disciple. Of course, he didn't want to build a good relationship with her. Little Wu, look at this. Is it fun? Like this. Master, why haven't you started to practice? This thing, doesn't it look good to you? Okay, but this thing can't let me catch up with Brother Chu Yang. The expected scene of the two masters begging the little girl to practice didn't happen at all. Instead, the little girl urged the two masters to start. This good start made the two supreme martial artists very happy. So, Ning Tianya started teaching immediately. 2 days later, the little girl was somewhat thin and tired. Again. 2 days later, the little girl was somewhat powerless. Again. 3 days later. Boo-hoo! I miss Brother Chu Yang. The little girl couldn't take it anymore. Ning Tianya felt a big headache. My whole body is sore. The little girl's eyes were brimming with tears. Ning Tianya looked up and sighed. However, there was one thing that made the two supreme martial artists the happiest. The little girl's aptitude was superb. Her physical strength was good, but her wisdom was incomparable. The little girl could basically memorize some theoretical things or chant that needed to be recited. Therefore, it could be said that she spent very little time in this aspect. However, the little girl's physical strength couldn't support it. Therefore, the most difficult part became practice. How about I give you a massage every day? There was no other way. Ning Tianya volunteered himself. He was a dignified supreme martial artist. No! The little loli's eyes were brimming with tears, but she firmly refused. Although you are my master, you are also a man. I won't allow you to touch my body. This is Brother Chu Yang's. Yu Tianya burst into tears. When had a dignified supreme martial artist ever given anyone a massage? Now that he had taken the initiative to bring it up, he was actually embarrassed on the spot. Being snubbed for his warm face, that was the kind of depressing feeling that all his internal organs were burning. I'm already fucking over 10,000 years old. How could I possibly be lustful toward a little girl like you? Bulu Qing had been watching Ning Tianya teach his disciple with cold eyes. His mouth hadn't closed since. His disciple's aptitude had made him smile with satisfaction. His disciple's cuteness had made him smile with doting love. His disciple's intelligence had made him smile with gratification. Of course, his disciple's mischievousness had made him smile with schadenfreude even more. Having been rejected, Ning Tianya went out with a black face. Therefore, on that night Yi Meili, the chief Masus of the Yi clan, who was one of the dominant clans of the Chongtian continent, disappeared. The little girl was practicing her martial arts under the frowning gaze of the two masters. Then, she was groaning and lying on the jade essence bed, enjoying the massage under the speechless gaze of the two masters. Today was a day of contentment. Moreover, the most pleasant thing was that Bulu Qing had thought of a way. He had made a few holes in the huge jade essence bed that had been formed for 100,000 years. Then, he had placed purple crystal jade essence pearl, white crystal jade essence pearl, blue crystal jade essence pearl, and deep sea crystal jade essence pearl in the holes. Then, he had used his supreme martial artist cultivation to open up a channel for the circulation of vital energy between these rare treasures, forming an array. As long as this jade essence bed was placed here, the surrounding spiritual energy would be automatically attracted by the array. Then, it would be injected into these rare treasures and become circulating energy. This jade essence bed had become today's spiritual energy supply platform. As long as Mo Qingwu was lying on top of it, even if she did nothing but sleep, these rare heaven and earth energies would spontaneously gather together, and be channeled into Mo Qingwu's dantian. Then, they would spontaneously circulate through the little loli's meridians. Moreover, they would tirelessly wash away the impurities in the little girl's body. This kind of cultivation method was simply whimsical. After this method was successful, this jade essence bed was carried out of Ning Tianya's room and placed in the little girl's boudoir. From then on, it became Mo Qing Wu's exclusive use. When it was carried in, the little girl pouted as if she had suffered a lot of grievances. She used clean water to carefully wipe this jade essence bed. Then she moved her little nose and sniffed left and right. Then she frowned and reluctantly accepted it. Humph, Master Ning hasn't taken a bath since I came here. Letting me sleep in the bed that he slept in is obviously bullying me. Humph! I'll wash it again. The little girl pouted and felt extremely wronged. She felt that she had been abused. There wasn't even a bed made specially for her. What supreme martial artist? He's so poor. The two supreme martial artists spat out blood on the spot. Poor? Who dares to say that we're poor? Look at this jade essence bed in the entire heavenly layer. Besides me, who else can take out this jade essence bed? Just casually take out a pearl from it, and the entire heavenly layer will be turned upside down. So many top-grade treasures in the world were transformed by the two supreme martial artists. They spent a lot of energy to create the first cultivation aid treasure since ancient times, but it turned out to be trash? Sigh, trash is trash. As long as my precious disciple sleeps on it, the two supreme martial artists were speechless. They could only weep. The following days were even more miserable. The little girl was very focused on her cultivation. She was also very serious and very bitter. Her progress was very fast. Because the little girl's heart was filled with energy. I want to quickly become strong. I want to go and protect Brother Chu Yang. I want to learn quickly. Once I learn everything, I can go down and find Brother Chu Yang. With such a mentality, after getting through the discomfort of the first few days, she was naturally diligent to the point that the two supreme martial artists couldn't bear it. However, there was a problem that came out of Chu Paoli. She wanted to listen to stories before sleeping. How could the two supreme martial artists bear to disappoint their precious disciple? So, the two supreme martial artists took turns to tell stories. A long time ago, in ancient times, say. After a few months, the two supreme martial artists' bellies were hollowed out. Facing the little girl's sad eyes every night, the two supreme martial artists wanted to bang their heads against the wall. Did they take in a disciple? And they even invited a granny. What was worse was that Mo Qing Wu always shook her head after listening to the stories. It's not as good as Brother Chu Yang's. Then she would hold her cheeks with both hands and miss. Brother Chu Yang, I miss you so much. The accumulation of this period of time made the two supreme martial artists form a strong resentment, or a conditioned reflex. Hearing the name Brother Chu Yang, the two supreme martial artists would start to have a headache. The two supreme martial artists would gnash their teeth in private. The next time I see that little Chu Yang, I swear I won't be human if I don't teach him a lesson. Look at you, bastard, spoil my disciple so much. Of course, complaints are just complaints. And Mo Qing Wu's cultivation is progressing step by step. Moreover, it's advancing at a speed of 1,000 miles per day. In the beginning, the two supreme martial artists still had a competitive spirit. But later, it gradually faded. What's the point of competing for a disciple? Maybe one day, the two supreme martial artists couldn't pass the final hurdle. There was only one common disciple in the world. What's the point of competing? Well, looking at this, the little girl's cultivation is much faster than the two of us at that time. After a few years, she may be able to go out to the Jianghu to gain experience. Occasionally, when the two supreme martial artists sat opposite each other and drank, they were also quite depressed. If this trend continues, our disciple will inevitably be taken advantage of by that beast Chu Yang. Thinking of this, the two supreme martial artists wanted to simply go down and castrate that little girl right now. The two supreme martial artists of the upper three heavens didn't care about what was happening outside. They only wanted to teach their disciple. After 3 days of turbulence, the storm finally came to an end. More than a dozen clans started to take action at the same time. They intersected and attacked each other. Later, the loss of the city gate affected the fish in the moat. Those clans who were wise to protect themselves were also implicated. The number of deaths every day exceeded 4 digits. The number of shops closing every day exceeded 3 digits. The number of shops changing hands every day exceeded 3 digits. On the third day, the conflict had escalated. All the major clans had brought out their absolute martial strength and fought with each other. In the end, as long as they saw people wearing different clothes on the streets, they would go up and start a fight. On the third day, the number of casualties exceeded 10,000. Those Jianghu people who walked alone were considered unlucky. If they didn't find a backer, they would be like rats crossing the street. Who cared if they were innocent or not? The Mo clan was the first to raise the banner of seeking justice for the people of Jianghu, protecting the safety of the people of Jianghu. Immediately, those Jianghu people who were frightened and worried about their own safety flooded into the clan. On the fourth day, the situation was even more out of control. Almost all the businesses of the European Union's clans were paralyzed. All their sources of income were cut off. They anxiously vented everywhere. At this time, Mo Tianji sent out a letter of challenge. The tactic was very simple. Fight to determine the winner. Fight to determine the heavens. On the 10th day of the 10th month, do you dare to fight me? Tian Buhui was furious. He replied on the spot. If you want to fight, I will fight. Fight to change the heaven and earth. Fight to determine the heavens. Immediately, Mo Tianlong issued a crusade to the entire Jianghu. With the Mo clan as the leader, the few clans stood at the peak of morality. They looked down from above and ruthlessly killed the clans of the European Union with a sword of justice. At the same time, the Ao clan announced that they would join the battle. They had no choice but to join the battle. After this battle, the winner would probably sweep the entire Jianghu. Their reputation would far surpass that of the Ao clan. If the Ao clan didn't make a move, they wouldn't be able to catch up even if they ate shit. On the same day, when it was close to dusk, 2 pieces of news spread throughout the 3 heavens. The 3 heavens, which were already in a mess, were in an uproar again, to be continued. Chapter 643. These 2 pieces of news came one after the other. Chu Yang and Mo Tianji were stunned when they heard the first piece of news. Gu Duxing and Dong Wushang had joined forces to defeat the 2 brothers of Ao clan, Ao Qingyun and Ao Fengyun. Ao Qingyun's heart had been pierced by Gu Duxing's sword, and Ao Fengyun had been cleaved into 2 halves by Dong Wushang's saber. Mo Tianji cried out when he saw this news. Don't you think that these 2 brothers are too fierce? How did they kill those 2 brothers? Those were 2 great geniuses. Chu Yang spat on the ground and said, Brother Mo, why do you resent the word genius so much? An individual is a genius in martial arts. But it doesn't mean that he's also an all-around genius who is good at war and outstanding in scheming. Every genius must have another aspect, that is, an idiot. Chu Yang deeply said. In my opinion, these 2 geniuses of the Ao clan may be idiots in the brain. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been so blinded by ambition. Mo Tianji laughed out loud. Then he frowned. But killing them at this time isn't a good thing even if they are idiots. Chu Yang snorted. It's not necessarily a bad thing. The 2 men looked at each other. Then, they evaluated each other in their hearts. Mo Tianji and Chu Yang were completely different in this matter. Mo Tianji was a roundabout person. I can't kill him now. It's better to kill him after I've finished using him. Won't I have to vent my anger sooner or later? Don't you know that it's never too late to take revenge? Chu Yang is a hardliner. I'll kill you if you dare to provoke me. It doesn't matter why I killed them. What Gu Duxing and the others did was right. So, what's the big deal about killing them? Naturally, the 2 of them didn't understand the reason. It was said that the 2 great dukes of the Ao clan had arrived at the Gu clan that day. They had sent an invitation, and had entered the clan. They had been a little overbearing at first. But they had still been polite. But they had come to the Gu clan to ask for their surrender. Gu Du Xing had exploded. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. My life is at its best. Why are you here to mess things up? Gu Du Xing had sternly refused, and drove the two out. The next day, the two elders continued to be relentless. They analyzed the situation, tried to reason with him, and tried to move him with emotion. In short, they said, your Gu clan will be finished in this 3-day storm. So, you should take refuge in my Ao clan as soon as possible. Gu Duxing ignored him. These two idiots were simply making people spit out rice. Do you know who this duke is? On the third day, Gu Duxing couldn't take it anymore. That was because Ao Fengyun had mentioned Gu Miaoling during their conversation. He had earnestly said that Gu Miaoling's fate would be like if the Gu clan were to be exterminated. And only Ao clan could provide her with a protective umbrella and so on. But before he could finish, Gu Duxing flew into a rage and rushed out to fight. The two great clans immediately became entangled in a fight. Both sides suffered losses. Although both sides held back and no one lost their lives, there were still many who were injured. This time, the two proud men were furious. Ao clan had dominated the three heavens for 3 days. Had the grassroots ever received such provocation? Then, he cursed loudly, and declared that he would exterminate the Gu clan. Gu Duxing couldn't bear it any longer. So, he finally hardened his heart, and went out to fight. Coincidentally, Second Master Dong arrived at this time. Dong Wushang rushed over at full speed. He was still a few miles away when he heard the cursing voices of the Ao clan. He was unable to restrain his anger. He dashed over like a meteor, and slashed Ao Fengyun into 2 halves with a schwa sound. Ao Fengyun was the one who had been making the most noise. The two brothers of the Ao clan were geniuses in martial arts, but geniuses and geniuses were different. Especially, they couldn't be compared with abnormal geniuses like Dong Wushang and Gu Duxing. Ao Fengyun had lost his life in this move. Everyone of the Ao clan was furious. They surrounded Dong Wushang one after another. They wanted to dismember this man who had killed their duke into 10,000 pieces. Gu Duxing also rushed out at this time. He took advantage of the fact that all the experts of the Ao clan were besieging Dong Wushang. So, he attacked with his sword. This went even more smoothly. The sword light flashed, and the other Duke Ao Qin Yun's soul also went to hell. Gu Duxing and Dong Wushang weren't timid people. So, they launched an all-out counterattack. The two brothers, Sword Emperor and Saber Emperor, went on a killing spree in the crowd of the Ao clan. They were shouting and fighting fiercely. Everyone of the Gu clan also rushed out, and beat them while they were down. Only 3 high-end Emperor-level experts of the Ao clan managed to escape with their lives. The others were buried in front of the Gu clan's gate. The curtains had already been drawn by the time Dong Wulei arrived with his people. It was said that young Master Dong Wulei cried on the spot. My 2 fathers, you killed 2 of the Ao clan's dukes at such a critical moment. Motherfucker, do you want to die faster? Gu Duxing and Dong Wushang expressed the same opinion regarding Dong Wulei's misgivings. Ao clan, what is it? Dong Wulei was left speechless in the face of these 2 daring guys. Gu Duxing dispersed the clansmen of the Gu clan on that day in order to avoid the retaliation of the Ao clan. Then, he led the army to merge with Dong Wulei and his brothers, and set out for the location of the decisive battle. Dong Wulei was extremely melancholy on the way. He was constantly sighing. This was the first piece of news. Chu Yang and Mo Tianji heard the second piece of news. Chu Yang went berserk on the spot. Mo Tianji had good self-restraint. But he also slammed the table on the spot. The second piece of news was much more explosive than the first piece of news. The remaining 4 dukes of the Ao clan suddenly merged. They contacted a 1,000-man team, and attacked the Xia clan at lightning speed. That was because they had obtained accurate information. Ao Xia Yun was in the Xia clan. Everyone would have a chance if they killed Ao Xia Yun. Even if the clan blamed them, the dead couldn't come back to life. Therefore, the 4 dukes discussed for a moment, and decided to attack the Xia clan. It was said that the battle had shaken the heaven and earth. The Xia clan had been caught off guard. Half of the sky had been burned red. 8 8th grade Emperor-level experts of the Ao clan had entangled the ancestor of the Xia clan, Xia Jiqiu. The others had also wantonly destroyed everything. Xia Danqiong had just returned to the clan, and had been besieged by 2 Emperor-level experts. He had been seriously injured. Xia Danfeng had also been seriously injured. Rui Butong had also been severely injured. Tan Tan had barely managed to protect everyone as they rushed out. Ao Xia Yun had been the main target. But his injuries had become even more serious in order to save Rui Butong's life. Xia Jiqiu and several Emperor-level experts of the Xia clan had risked their lives to lead everyone to break out of the encirclement. They were currently fleeing towards this place. And the army of the Ao clan was relentlessly chasing after them, and the foundation of the Xia clan that had been established for hundreds of years had been destroyed. Chu Yang stood up when the news had reached him. Mo Tianji didn't wait for Chu Yang to speak. He slammed the table and issued an order. All personnel who will participate in the battle, set out immediately. Travel through the night and night. We must succeed in providing support before the Ao clan catches up with the Xia clan. All intelligence personnel must ensure the safety of the people of the Xia clan at all costs from now on. Even if they die, they must be protected. Their family members will be compensated 100-fold in case of misfortune. Chu Yang and Mo Tianji impatiently rushed out of the gate of the Mo clan while the invisible falcon flew out. You take everyone and leave quickly. I'll go first. Chu Yang mounted his horse and left behind these words. His last words had echoed from hundreds of feet away. Chu Yang and his horse disappeared into the twilight as soon as he finished speaking. Mo Tianji's complexion was as calm as water. He waved his hand, and the troops continued to move forward. It seemed as if his heart had been set on fire at this moment. It was burning his internal organs, and making him feel uncomfortable. This news had thrown Mo Tianji into a panic. There are people in the world who don't care about the overall situation. Mo Tianji finally couldn't help but vent his anger. Is the Ao clan more important than the entire Jianghu? These geniuses of the Ao clan are extremely disgraceful. Mo Tianji's plan would be in danger of collapsing if the Xia clan suffered too heavy a loss this time. And they would be in danger of losing this battle of 3 days. They had painstakingly schemed against Tian Buhui's group, but they had made a wedding dress for them. How could Mo Tianji not be angry? This was related to the life and death of more than a dozen great clans. And this included the Mo clan. Clan Lord, this matter, perhaps we didn't consider it enough. An elder of the Mo clan stroked his beard and said in a deep voice. The Ao clan has been standing proudly for 3 days. It has been 1,000 years. For these elders, the Ao clan is like a towering tree. They will have hope if they kill Ao Xia Yun. Then, no matter what happens to the Ao clan, as long as they can keep their position, their lives will be saved. They don't think about the overall situation of the world. After all, in their eyes, the battle for the world between the 2 great groups is just a joke. Moreover, they only need to watch with folded arms. If they can't do it, they can settle down. But the Ao clan has already announced their participation in the battle. Mo Tianji said fiercely. Ao Tianxing said this himself this morning. That's why they took the risk. The elder of the Mo clan said. It's still not right. Mo Tianji gritted his teeth. They shouldn't have the guts to attack the Xia clan in 3 days. They don't have the strength to do so. There must be something fishy about this. The Xia clan is stronger than my Mo clan. They aren't any weaker than the Dong clan. They want to attack the Xia clan in 3 days with just a few debauchee geniuses? This is a big joke. Mo Tianji said heavily. This is absolutely impossible. Then he frowned. The Ao clan has announced their participation in the battle. So, they certainly won't have the assistance of the experts of the Ao clan. It can only be those 4 men and their entourage of experts. According to reliable sources, each of those 4 men has brought no more than 150 people. So, the total number is at most 100 people. But the information says that there are more than 1,000 people. The information can't be wrong. So, where did the extra 400 people come from? Mo Tianji frowned. He let his horse gallop forward. He was constantly thinking and speculating in the wind. Suddenly, a light flashed in his mind. Could it be that the reinforcements of Tian Buhui's group have finally arrived? But how did their reinforcements get involved with the Ao clan? If it's not them, then who is it? To be continued. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.